Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. I've been having problems all evening. Hopefully. Mm-mm. Come on, 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 come on. Come on, eat. Let's get it in. Baby, did he do her the work? No, we don't know if he did her the worst. But baby, you know, I wonder, do them X pills or whatever that he got them folk taking, do it make them think that they really be in love? It's blowing my mind that all of these girls are saying, I really loved him. What? What? He's swapping you out and making you be a porn star and you really love him? You did it because you loved him? Girl. Ugh. If you say so. Oh, I love him. I love him. And he love him. You love him and he loves somebody else, another dude. How does that really work? I'm gonna start here.
Day 18 of the Diddy trial, we are listening to the tragic tale of Jane, which is the pseudonym of the second of Diddy's girlfriends, testified that he sexually exploited them. I am Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Logic. I am in the Southern District of New York, sitting on those steps right now, a courthouse which I have practiced in personally. And I come here every day for the purposes of trying to provide you with a legal perspective of how the state is trying to press forward its charges against Sean Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, and the methods that the defense is employing to try and protect him from those very charges. For the last day or so, starting from yesterday afternoon and continuing into this morning, we've been hearing from Jane, which is the pseudonym of a girlfriend of Diddy from 2021 through 2024.
And they say it's 50 Cent baby mama.
Of her privacy and taking multiple steps, such as not allowing anyone but the jury and the counsel for both sides to see much of any of the evidence that's been presented so far, in a desperate effort to try and protect her anonymity, even though between you and me, You've probably heard about Boxable's flagship product, the Casita. Even though between you and me, many people in the viewing room seem to identify who she is, because she's not someone who is an unknown. And accordingly, a lot of people have speculated that they have identified who she is. I'm certainly not going to reveal that in the interest of trying to protect her privacy. I'm certainly not going to reveal that. But the testimony we've heard about from her story is eerily similar to the testimony we heard from Cassie Ventura about the developmental relationship, which starts as a whirlwind romance, and a couple of months into that romance, after they get wined and dined and fall head over heels for Diddy, that he introduces them to the concept of a freak-off. Although when Jane talks about it, she doesn't call it a freak-off. Her reference to it is generally hotel nights. That's how they've been referring to it in the context of Jane's specific testimony. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same as what we heard freak-offs being with Cassie. The experience is marathon sexual encounters wherein Diddy would bring in an escort or some other stranger, sometimes a porn star, and she would perform involving extensive foreplay with tons of baby oil, and then after she would perform one encounter, another encounter, one session.
Oh, I know they hate baby oil now.
She would alternatively go into a suite side room with Diddy, and they would engage in sex there. Both Cassie and Janet testified that the motivations for them engaging in this was they wanted alone time with Diddy. Now, I should say this, as far as how she's testifying, she seems completely sympathetic. Everything about her testimony, at least on direct so far, seems to ring very true. She seems heartbroken when she talks about the sexual encounters that she says she felt obligated to perform in order to please her partner. But therein lies the rub, which is a little bit of a difficulty for the state that we should anticipate that the defense is going to be bringing up a lot on cross. Specifically, that she repeatedly and routinely will refer to her partner, i.e. Sean Combs, that she felt obliged to perform to please her partner. And the notion of pleasing her partner seems to be a very important element to her motivation, which makes you question whether or not that will satisfy 18 U.S.C. 1591, which is the sex trafficking charge. I believe it's a third of the charges that is leveled against Diddy is for allegedly sex trafficking Jane. And the question is that really coercion if in fact she's not forced but makes a choice? The defense from opening arguments on has stated that it was her choice. Well, the state is trying to try and show it's not her choice by introducing two other factors with respect to Jane, specifically that he was getting her drugged up, that she had only taken drugs, ecstasy, twice in her life before she ever met Diddy, and as soon as they started even dating, well before the hotel nights were even introduced, Diddy started getting her involved with using ecstasy on a regular basis. Over a week-long period, she said she had used ecstasy 9 times, which was, and on the first day of that, it was the 3rd time she ever used it. Over the next week, she uses another 9 to 10 times.
Oh, wow.
And she had spent a week with him in Turks and Caicos and another 6 days in the Bahamas. And that during that time, this girlfriend was involved in using X and Molly and pink powder that she wasn't sure what it was, and sometimes cocaine. And we started hearing about the litany of drugs that Diddy kept providing to her. Now, she talks about how she preferred using drugs when she was engaging in these encounters, certainly later encounters. The initial encounter she looked at as being a sexually adventurous thing, and she talks glowingly about how that was, she felt like she was doing something good, sacrificing herself for her partner and making him happy. And then afterwards, she was really pleased with the fact that she thought she had done something for him that was relatively unique. Obviously, she knew nothing about his history with Cassie and how he similarly exploited her, at least according to Cassie's testimony. So she seemed very proud and pleased with herself that she stepped outside her normal boundaries to do that, and was unaware that 90 to 100% of the rest of her sexual encounters with Sean would be in the context of these hotel hotel nights, at least according to her testimony. So one way that the state is likely trying to press on the fact that she was compelled and that 18 USC 15, that element of 18 USC 1591 has been satisfied has been through the use of drugs. Another is through financial coercion. Diddy was taking care of her, put himself as far as taking care of her rent in a $10,000 a month apartment that he rented, that she took up in LA. She was living on the East Coast when she first met him. She flies out to LA. He puts her on a $10,000 a month rent, and he's covering those charges. That seems to be the extent of the compensation that she was getting from Diddy. And they try and paint him as being controlling. That at a certain point, she heard about some of her girlfriends who were making a great deal of money during the early halcyon days of OnlyFans. One model girlfriend of hers, she testified, gotten $4 million. She went to Diddy and said, hey, I'd like to do that. Not that she would engage in sexual encounters, which seemed to be de rigueur on OnlyFans, but that she would basically be doing bikini modeling and lingerie and things of that nature, and was hoping that she could make a great deal of money that way. But he said no. Well, why did you agree to go along with that? Well, I felt that it was important from before I do something like that I get approval from my boyfriend.
Oh,
Is that
wow.
financial coercion? I guess that's a jury question. I'd like you to weigh in the comments. Do you think that's financially coercive? Do you think that using the drugs makes it coercion? These are questions that the jury is certainly going to have to grapple with. Now, we should anticipate.
Oh, yeah. If you have to use drugs, she's not in her right mind.
To Jane. We haven't heard about that yet. However, in opening statements, the state made reference to the fact that the most recent assault by Diddy of his girlfriend was a year ago. It was less than a year ago in 2024. So we should anticipate that we are going to hear her talk about physical violence, and that the state will try to use that.
Does Speedy know he put hands on her?
She felt coerced into engaging into these hotel nights. But the struggle here is going to be real. It's going to be very difficult for the state to try and say that she's completely compulsive, that she's coerced and forced into these encounters, when in fact she's saying that she wants to please her partner. And she says it a lot, that she feels it's her duty. And she talks about him still lovingly. Well, an awful tragic story that we heard about before we got to lunch here was about her birthday in 2023, when Diddy was having her have sex with someone who was not one of the regular performers.
This must be the most popular
wow.
iSmartwatch on the market right now. With it, they're
performers. And that she really didn't want to do it. And she felt like, it's my birthday, I don't want to be doing this. And then when she started asking for a condom, Diddy was standing behind this guy and gave her a look which she read to be him mouthing, don't you effing dare ask for a condom. But then he turns and hands a condom to the guy, and he ended up putting it on. But after he handed it to him, he walked away in disgust, as if he wasn't even going to bother watching, because he was upset about the idea that she wanted him to use a condom.
Like his eyes too good to look at a condom.
That the state
well, why was the condom there?
Testimony is certainly that he's a monster, that he is a complete dirtbag, and he treats women like awful garbage. And it's hard to really come to any other conclusion. In fact, even the state's opening statements pretty much paint him as being a monster and an awful, terrible human being. The question ultimately comes down as to whether or not the state can convict him of these charges and convince a jury that these women had no free will to choose to say no, especially when so much of their testimony seems to play into the idea that they just wanted to earn time with Diddy and were willing to do anything to do it, including making these choices. It's a conclusion that a lot of people who are watching are drawing from their testimony. Not everyone. It really depends on who you ask. It'll be interesting to see if they can get 12 jurors to unanimously agree that these women were coerced. Again, we're still expecting a lot more direct testimony from Jane. She probably won't even finish her direct today. Maybe at the end of today she will, because they're lengthening out the testimony today.
What is this? Hold on.
It's all about alleged victim Jane's testimony today in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Back on the stand, she testified about voyeuristic sex and drugs. Audio recordings were played, texts were read. What were the main points of her testimony, though? How does it potentially fit into the prosecution's case? And how was the jury reacting to her? Law and Crimes Inc. Court reporter Elizabeth Miller is back with us to break it all down. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Let's go.
All right, so you heard me lay it all out there. Jane back on the stand today in Sean Diddy Combs' criminal trial out of New York federal court. Testified about how Combs allegedly coerced her into multiple sexual episodes with other men, right? Sex trafficking, transporting sex workers and her for purposes of prostitution, another charge. Maybe fits into racketeering conspiracy, the idea that Combs engaged in a pattern of abuse and sexual exploitation of women using his businesses and resources and staff to essentially create a criminal enterprise that was engaged in all sorts of crimes. So what were the highlights of her testimony? Did she help prove any of these charges? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not the best witness for the prosecution. You know, she claimed she was in a relationship with him right until his arrest. So, with all that in mind, I want to bring on Law and Crimes in-court reporter Elizabeth Milner, who is going to give us a play-by-play on the biggest moments that happened today. Elizabeth, it's great to see you. Now, first of all, before we even talk about her testimony, she is testifying under a pseudonym, Jane, that's not her real name. The courtroom sketches are actually blurring her face. But I understand in the middle of court today, it came out that what, people are trying to find out who she is?
And I think starting back when Mia was testifying, as far as people who have been online trying to figure out who these witnesses are. And then Jane's case specifically, her lawyer went up there and kind of gave an argument to the judge just about YouTube and Instagram accounts that have been either trying to identify Jane or are just flat out just saying her name on the internet. And then Jane's attorney had said that no one in the courtroom did it, but as far as her concern, she seemed very concerned about this as far as people trying to find out who she is, people talking about who she is, and understandably there are kind of identifiable traits inside the transcripts, inside where people might be able to kind of draw the connection, but as far as just the entire judge's order in the first place, the order is that you cannot talk about this particular witness. Now, as far as what the judge can do to kind of ramify maybe the damage that has been done, he's looking into it, and I believe that Jane's defense attorney is going to submit a letter just kind of going more in depth about it. But you always have to kind of wonder to yourself, Jesse, how much can the judge do? For example, if somebody is commenting on it, they live in Ohio or Oklahoma or just some other area that's not in New York City, just how much of a reach can a judge's order really do in this particular case? And I think it's one of the problems that is coming up in a trial this big with its very high profile and just the impact that it could have.
I think the main concern is if somebody in that courtroom is leaking information. That is the number one concern, and hopefully that is not the case. The judge can definitely do something about that. Okay, I want to get back into her testimony. And look, one of the individual charges that Sean Combs faces is sex trafficking with respect to Jane. Force, fraud, coercion. What were some of the examples that you saw that would support, I don't know if necessarily force, but maybe fraud or coercion for the prosecution's case? Because there was a lot of information today, and I actually was trying to pick out pieces that might support.
Everyone uses the internet.
Actually, I was trying to pick out pieces that might support the prosecution's case, and then we could talk about maybe some weaknesses. But what were parts that you think support the prosecution's case that this was sex trafficking?
Well, I think as far as the prosecution goes, I think they're really kind of honing in that it's sex trafficking by fraud specifically. So, for example, if Jane is making text messages or sending text messages or writing even voice notes to herself or writing them out in her phone, because we all know we have that iPhone notes app inside our phone, that she's explaining that Diddy, or Sean as she refers to him while on the stand, was a pathological liar, that he would lie to her about things as far as she was under the impression that the two would be just spending time together, and then what would turn out was that they would end up having these hotel nights or debauchery nights or freak off just for not even like an hour or two, not even for 30 minutes.
That makes a
nothing
difference.
like that. For the lowest, I think, amount she had said was 12 hours, and the longest going for 3.5 days. And so I think the prosecution is really trying to hone in that this wasn't sex trafficking necessarily by force or coercion, but more specifically
by lying.
Under one of the arguments that they were making towards the end of the day, they did kind of verify that they believe that this is sex trafficking by fraud. And so there are other examples too that could possibly go into maybe force or coercion, that being that Jane had always wanted these escorts, or the entertainers as she calls them, while on the witness stand, to wear condoms, and that Diddy didn't necessarily like that. He preferred that these men would just be doing it unprotected in a sense. And there were times where Jane did seem apprehensive about doing these freak-offs or hotel nights or debauchery nights with certain escorts. So there was one time where she said that one man was brought in and that she found him kind of unattractive and was kind of repulsed by him. He was sweating all over her. She just, again, wasn't attracted to him, and she wanted kind of Diddy to like kick him out, and she didn't want to do this. But instead of him just leaving, I mean, he did end up leaving, but then another man was brought. So it seemed like, I think what they were trying to go for is that even if she didn't want to do it, even if she wasn't attracted to or didn't want to have sex with these particular men or escorts, that instead of just dismissing this person, just ending the night just there, it would just continue on, or he would just get somebody else to do it. She explained that she would cry after hotel night. She said one time she thought that she and Diddy were just doing a date night. This was the beginning of their relationship, and then they did an 18-hour hotel night, and at the end Diddy said that he had to leave, and she said that I just didn't want him to leave me like that, especially after doing this very long sex session, which she also referred to as performances, that she would just be performing because she loved him and that she just wanted to make him happy. And then she gets kind of emotional and shows up a little bit on the witness stand, where she's like, I didn't want him to leave me like that alone. I was so high that night. It was just a bad memory. And again, she's kind of crying about this while on the stand. And so Jane said that she cried even in front of Diddy at the Waldorf Hotel in Beverly Hills. And Diddy looked at her and was like, are you crying? And Jane explained that this was in a disgusted face that he was making. She said that there was another time where she had cried after a hotel night. She said she was in the shower with Diddy, and she felt herself kind of blacking out. She said that they were at his house. Next thing you know, we were at a hotel. I was high. I embraced his butler. Then I was having sex with Paul, and Paul is an escort. And that Sean, aka Diddy, was telling her to stop crying because he was high and just didn't enjoy that. And so it seemed like from Jane's point of view that she really, kind of similar to Cassie, just continued to do drugs and rarely did these freak-off sessions or hotel nights sober. She recalled maybe 2 instances of starting them at least sober, and then because she was just kind of disgusted with herself and disgusted just with the whole process of it, she ended up taking a pill, and that pill likely being an ecstasy pill. And so it seemed like maybe the government does have that kind of working for them as far as going to count 4 specifically of sex trafficking pertaining to victim 2 or and coercion. And so it seems like sometimes they drunk and high and don't even know. They just start getting woozy. He done gave put some eye drop.
By the way, we plan to continue to providing you this Diddy coverage. We're going to give you recaps. We're going to break down these legal issues that happen almost every day in court. And one of the reasons we can do this and bring you this content is because we get amazing support from our incredible partner and sponsor.
Going and going, according to her testimony. She even recalled that she would get back pain or neck pain and shoulder pain. And
she was tired, like she would testify. She firm. And honestly, they have an incredible track record. In the past few months, Morgan & Morgan secured a $9.3 million verdict for in that case. And even if you think your case isn't worth millions of
explained that on the stand, and getting also pretty emotional, where she recalled either just experiencing a large amount of pain or just being very tired, because again, these aren't like quick sessions, nothing like that. These are hour-long sessions, day-long sessions, where she would tell her partner, that being Diddy or Sean Combs, that she was just exhausted from it, and that there was one instance specifically where she threw up after having sex, I think, with a couple of men, and that she just wanted to stop, but he kept pushing her to keep going and going, according to her testimony. She even recalled that she would get back pain or neck pain and shoulder pain, and kind of similar to Cassie's testimony, she experienced UTIs, urinary tract infections, about every week. She also experienced yeast infections from these hotel nights, and she said that she would still complete the nights, again similar to Cassie's testimony, while still having a urinary tract infection, and explained that it was just very painful, and that her pelvic area also experienced a lot of pain. And she said she didn't want to indicate negativity as far as why she just didn't tell him that she was experiencing this type of pain, but it seemed like from her standpoint, I think one thing that she's really kind of been driving a point during her testimony so far is that she felt compelled to do this because that's what he wanted. That's what turned him on. That's what made him happy, and she just didn't want to make him unhappy. So she did everything, even when she was feeling pain, even when she was experiencing injuries, even when she would throw up after just a sex session, that she just kept on going because that's what made him happy.
And I know there was another episode where she said she even got sick. She threw up and basically was like, allegedly Combs basically said to her,
Melissa.
Okay, good, now you're ready for the next guy, you're ready for the third guy. And, you know, I think it was interesting because I remember I read that she was asked, do you know how many times you basically told him that you didn't want to do these? And it's one thing to vocalize it, it's another thing to have the text messages. I understand there were a lot of text messages that were read that arguably were used to show she was vocalizing she did not want to be a part of this, right? What were the substance of these text messages?
So we did see a lot of text messages, especially towards the end of the day. So, for example, we didn't see because they are not showing the exhibits while Jane is testifying, but we did hear about one text message from November 22nd of 2021 where Jane was saying, I'm definitely feeling some type of way because she saw Diddy with another woman, saw this through their Instagram stories. I guess Diddy and this other woman were at his gym, at his studio, and Jane says, I was jealous and felt mistreated while he was giving this woman quality time that she was asking for. At this point, she says that, and again, this is pretty early on into their relationship, where she was explaining that she just kind of felt used and only used particularly for these hotel nights. So Jane was under the guise that another man would be around them and that she didn't want this. She just wanted quality time with Sean Combs, but instead always another man was brought, and that normally being an entertainer or an escort. And so Jane in one text says, you just wanted a Dawn and a Sly moment, Dawn being one of the escorts, Sly being another name or the kind of stage name that Cabral uses, another man that was used during these hotel nights. Jane said to Sean Combs, I see what I'm turning into in your eyes. And then she also told him, I need a breather and a break from you. I hope you two have a great Thanksgiving. This doesn't make me feel good at all. And again, always paraphrasing because these notes or these text messages go by so fast. And then we see another exhibit where she's sending, it's a voice note from Diddy to Jane where she's like, so she asked me to work out. She just came back to work. He said, I told you have one more time to do this. And then we saw more text exhibits where Jane says, I don't even effing care who you're with. You say that you miss me and you want to see me, but you're lying. You just want me for hotel SHIT. She said she felt like she was the one who had to take it all on. And by take it all on, it was the one who was being the one who an escort was on top of her body and doing things to her specifically, that she was kind of having to carry the brunt of just these hotel nights as opposed to Diddy in a way who just kind of got pleasure from this. And so Jane also said in a text message, it's not me you miss or want. And then we see another text exhibit, this one from February 5th of 2022, where Jane says, baby, should I wear white or black dress? Diddy says black. Jane and Diddy were getting ready for her birthday and she just wanted to hang out, but ended up at a hotel night with Leo. Jane was explaining during this text message that she was really high, she was in love with her partner, so she was okay with this escort or entertainer named Leo kind of impeding on her birthday. We see another text message from just a couple of days later on February 11th of 2022 where Jane says that Diddy began dating another woman. It was heartbreaking for her, and that she saw that Diddy was celebrating this woman's birthday after he just spent her birthday with her. And Jane told Sean Combs, I don't know how we'll make it out of this. I don't know if I'll ever do another hotel night with you. Then we see some notes from months later, those being on November 26th of 2022, where Jane says, I've been waiting for you to do what you promised me. We both deserve love, and I don't feel it. I don't want to do drugs for days and days. The freaky wild desires in hotel rooms with you. We see another exhibit of a note, and these are notes that Jane is kind of taking on her phone, and they're kind of like diary entries, as the defense kind of pointed out, outside the presence of the jury. But she would sometimes send these notes, or also kind of like diary entries, and send them to Sean Combs. And so we saw another note from December 12th of 2022, and Jane, always paraphrasing here, Jane saying something along the lines of, "But for what? You took another girl on a date. You wanted to do hotel nights for debauchery. You want me to put you to bed. You have me locked in a hotel room. I'm done being used by you." And she explained that it was really hurtful to see Sean Combs do other things for other women that she wanted to do. She kind of felt like she was just being used for these particular nights, and if she wasn't used for these particular nights, then somehow, some way, another man would be brought. And so we're seeing photo exhibits, or not we're seeing photo exhibits because we can't see photo exhibits, but we're hearing about these exhibits where you hear photos about Jane and Diddy for her birthday. Then you see some texts from February 11th and 12th of 2023 where Jane is saying, "Why'd you lie to me?" Diddy left her in a room and then went on a private trip with another girl that he was dating. And Jane, getting really emotional while on the witness stand, is saying things like this broke her heart, that she felt left at these hotel rooms. And then you see more messages where Jane is saying, "It felt like you used me to get off, then you go on a trip. I couldn't get out of this."
So she was the one that was in the hotel, be in them hotels while he be in other places.
Her having to go through these hotel nights day in and out, it felt like, from
he
her
done locked her in the hotel.
And Jane says, "You knew how tired I was after being with 3 men in one of these hotel nights." And then she went and saw that Diddy was on a trip with another woman, and it was to the only place that she even really wanted to go, and that was back to Turks and Caicos, where they had this really lovely trip, according to her, when they were in the beginning of their relationship. But then it seemed like a place that she wanted to go back to, and she wanted to go back to it with him Diddy specifically, and only those two. However, it seemed like from Jane, she was really upset and heartbroken, according to her, that he was going on the one place that she wanted to go to, back with her then boyfriend, and he was there with another woman. And so Diddy had responded, "Well, let's not do this anymore. He's tired. I'm tired of you throwing sex in my face. Let's just be friends." And again, Jane's getting pretty emotional during this and throughout other parts of her testimony. And then Diddy had texted her hello and good morning after their brief breakup, and that she said she didn't respond for nearly 2 weeks. So it seems like from her end, and I think what the government was trying to do is really kind of show that she, one, cared for him, and I think she's kind of making that pretty obvious while on the witness stand, but also that it seemed like that she was only used for one particular thing. And so it's going to depend on the jury whether or not they believe that kind of goes to sex trafficking, forced fraud, or coercion, but it's up to them to make that decision.
Yeah, either it's a toxic relationship, or what the prosecution is hoping to say, he was using manipulation, deceit, lies to induce her to engage in sexual acts with sex workers. And one of the things that they kept focusing on multiple times throughout the testimony today, it's almost like they had to keep reminding the jury, he's paying for your rent, right? He's paying for your rent, right? He's paying for your rent. Didn't they mention that multiple times about him paying for her rent or paying for things for her? Because if you're using financial control to induce somebody to engage in sex acts, similar to what they said with Cassie, that felt like what was going on there. Am I wrong that they kept mentioning? And by the way, I could be completely wrong about this. Did they say that he's still paying her rent, or am I totally off about that?
Not totally off. I think that was kind of one of the shockers from the testimony today, but I do want to kind of go back just a little bit, because it all kind of fell under the umbrella of this love contract where it's kind of like a gentleman's agreement between Jane and Sean Combs, where he would give her a monthly allowance, and that monthly allowance was $10,000 a month. Now, initially she said that she asked for $15,000 a month, which is, again, this is a month.
Hey, stop playing.
This isn't just every 3 months. It's like every single month.
Hey, sweet precious.
Guess how much her rent is? It is $10,000, which is a lot of money. And Jane said that she used the budget or the allowance for her rent, because that total is the entire rent. But yeah, she had said, Jesse, that she had a contract for 2 years, and so they made this love contract with one another in March of 2023, even though we're in May of 2025. She said that Diddy still pays her rent, and I think that's pretty notable given that he is still behind bars at MDC Brooklyn and probably paying a lot of money to attorneys right now, given that he's on a trial for he's on his criminal trial right now. But as far as Jane's explanation of it, she said that she wanted him to match the time that we had already spent in her relationship. So she was explaining that they were already in their relationship for about a 2-year period. All the time that she had spent with these escorts, doing these hotel nights, she just wanted, I think, that time and that
Yeah, they do need to hit the like button.
Certainly. And so I'm surprised that she said that this contract that they had with one another was for 2 years. Because
y'all please hit the like button.
When they kind of agreed upon this, they passed the 2-year mark. So I'm curious to know why he is still continuing to pay her rent. But it did seem like the prosecution was saying that it wasn't just the rent that he paid for, that Diddy also didn't like her teeth, and so he ended up paying for her to get new veneers, and that he gave her money for the furniture, and that she ended up opening 3
Didn't his teeth used to be green?
And so maybe that also kind of plays into that there was a kind of a financial gain or aspect from this, but I don't know if it'll work better for the defense or for the government at this point.
Yeah, right. So if you're talking about a commercial, something of value that's promised or given, but also if you read from the indictment, it's like he controlled their financial well-being.
They better put his ass up under the prison.
Physical appearance, you know, control's a big aspect when we talk about sex trafficking. By the way, you mentioned an audio recording. There were 2 audio recordings that were played?
I so appreciate you coming through.
So we did hear some audio notes, and these audio notes were from the defendant himself, that being Diddy. So I'm curious to know how the jury kind of interpreted these audio notes, mainly because when Diddy's inside that courtroom, while yes, he was kind of looking into the jurors, we don't hear from him very much. And so while he's sitting at the defense table,
he's straight ahead this time today.
His slacks, I'm wondering how they thought listening to these audio messages, because we don't hear from him vocally while the trial is going on. And so we heard one audio note from Diddy where he says, "I'm not going to be playing these games with you. I don't have time for these games. Get on your job. I was trying not to leave this message. Ain't no threat. I can't do this with you every time you're upset.
And that's exactly what that is. Stop playing. That's love.
Awakening." And so as far
as I hope you feel you feeling better.
Jane was testifying that she believed that he had meant get on your jobs as far as doing these hotel nights. As far as her being into a rude awakening, she thought that meant that he would take things away from her. Those things being the rent that he paid for her, the roof over her head that she lives at. There was a place that she lives at with her child. And so we see another audio note. But let me just kind of go back a little bit where Jan was saying that it felt really cold getting this. She thought that Diddy was going to cut her off. And then Diddy wrote in a text message after sending this audio note, "Get back to loving me now, LOL." Always paraphrasing here. He said a little bit more at the beginning of that. And then Jane responded, "You've been making these feel transactional." And Jane said again that Diddy brought up her rent and she felt like it was a guilt trip kind of feeling getting these types of messages from him. Then we hear another audio note where Diddy is saying, "You don't know how to move on. My tone is like this because I'm just waking up." And that, to Jane's point, it was another
you don't know how to move on.
Diddy was threatening to take her rent away and kind of leave her in a position where she would either have to carry that $10,000 a month rent or have to find another place to live, because if the man that is paying your rent is kind of telling you he's not going to be, I feel like she was kind of a little bit concerned about that from her end.
I want to talk also about now the weaker parts of her testimony when it comes to sex trafficking. Because the big question is, was it properly communicated, the lack of consent, or the alleged or the perceived lack of consent? I have to tell you, you know, there were parts of it that I'm not entirely sure. It wasn't as if, at least this point in the testimony, that you know, he grabbed her by the hair and threw her back in the room after she said no, or he directly...
Stop playing, ain't playing. And she's saying, y'all need to come on, get the likes up. Come on. So I can move on. Double tap the screen. Okay, bye-bye.
Threatened her. What were some of the parts of her testimony that you said, that might be a problem, that might be something that's exploited by the defense, Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think one of the instances that might kind of tie into the RICO was just the fact that the assistants set up these hotel nights. There was one picture that we didn't see, but we heard about it from the description where she's here in New York City, or I think it might have been Los Angeles, one of the two cities, that she was waiting outside of the hotel room, waiting for Diddy, and that the assistants were up in the hotel and that they were getting the room ready. So in the photograph, according to her description of it, because unfortunately we can't see these exhibits, she was saying that you could see the red lights. Were
his assistant the getting the room ready.
Use during these hotel nights or
his assistant getting the room ready.
Where Jane was explaining some of the exhibit photos that only she could see, only the jury could see. Where
I don't know how to feel about that. The assistant getting the room ready.
And that Brendan would bring pills and bottles, and then that Jane would see cocaine, she would see ecstasy, and that she explained that security would also get drugs.
But the assistant getting the room ready.
That Jane carried drugs for Diddy twice. She
came in, changed the lights
from Los Angeles to Miami. Diddy had told her something like, he said if I could pick up a package before the flight. But she also spoke to Christina Quorum about this package over the phone, and she said that Christina Quorum said, hey, just come, I'll have security give it to you. Jane had testified that Christina had told her, it's fine, I do it all the time. And I thought that was kind of an interesting point. She was, she being Jane, was explaining that this package was wrapped in a white envelope. She put it in her luggage. She checked the bag at the airport, like we all do, maybe just without the drugs. But when we go visit the airport, and she said when she had landed, when she saw Diddy, that she gave him the drugs at his Miami home in the bathroom. And and so I think maybe as far as RICO goes, I think they're really
hold on.
Even though we're not hearing as much about the assistants as we might have done
do a drug run?
I think they are kind of laying out some puzzle pieces here and there as far as just the assistants, whether it be Brennan, whether it be another assistant, whether it even be Quorum or Quorum, that they
did she just say she did a drug run?
Like we all do, maybe just without the drugs. But when we go visit the airport, this package over the phone, and she said that Christina Quorum said, hey, just come, I'll have security give it to you. Jane had testified that Christina had told her, it's fine, I do it all the time. And I thought that was kind of an interesting point. She was, she being Jane, was explaining that this package was wrapped in a white envelope. She put it in her luggage. She checked the bag at the airport, like we all do, maybe just without the drugs.
So she transported drugs?
Unfortunately, you can't see these exhibits. She was saying that you could see the red lights, and these were normally the lights they would use during these hotel nights or debauchery nights, that sort. And then there was another instance where Jane was explaining some of the exhibit photos that only she could see, only the jury could see, where there was a person who was Diddy's assistant, and his name was Brendan, and that Brendan would bring pills and bottles. And
it's a business. So, hold up.
See ecstasy, and that she explained that security would also get drugs.
Hold on. So security
entirely sure.
and his
it wasn't as if
KK
the testimony that
was this is an enterprise, y'all. So hold on. Drugs is one of them.
Were some of the parts of her
so now she's saying that she
might be a problem. That might be something that's
Christina and security gave her drugs to transport.
That might kind of tie into the RICO was just the fact that the assistants.
I hope she got him.
There was one picture that we didn't see. We heard about it from Jane's description, where she's here in New York City, or I think it might have been one of the two cities, that she was waiting outside of the hotel room, waiting for Diddy, and that the assistants were up in the hotel and that they were getting the room ready. So in the photograph, according to her description of it, because unfortunately
she said they do it all the time, so they transport drugs. Now that man, Jonathan, on private jets. Remember what he said?
Was explaining some of the exhibit photos.
Oh wow!
She could see, only the jury could see, where there was a person who was Diddy's assistant, and his name was Brendan, and that Brendan would bring pills and bottles, and then that Jane would see cocaine, she would see ecstasy, and that she explained that security would also get drugs if they ran out of drugs. And I think one interesting thing is that Jane carried drugs for Diddy twice. She says in 2022 from Los Angeles to Miami, Diddy had told her something like, he said if I could pick up a package before the flight. But she also spoke to Christina Quorum about this package package over the phone. And she said that Christina Quorum said, hey, just come, I'll have security give it to you. Jane had testified that Christina had told her,
and security.
I do it all the time. And I thought that was kind of an interesting point. She was, she being Jane, was explaining that this package was wrapped in a white envelope. She put it in her luggage. She checked the bag at the airport. Like,
now she's the first one that done said that she transported drugs.
Go visit the airport, and she said when she had landed, when she saw Diddy, that she gave him the drugs at his Miami home in the bathroom, and that these pills were ecstasy. And so I think maybe as far as RICO goes, I think they're really kind of trying to build into that, even though we're not hearing as much about the assistance as we might have done when Cassie was testifying. I think they are kind of laying out some puzzle pieces.
I think she's the first one to say he had her transport drugs.
Brendan, whether it be another assistant, whether it even be Christina Quorum, that they also kind of played a role in either helping Jane get drugs over to Diddy if she was across the country, or just setting up these hotel nights, knowing what was gonna.
Now, Jonathan Gotti said that he transport drugs on his.
That might help the prosecution, right? If they're trying to prove maybe predicate underlying crimes of, let's say, drug offenses, and they're talking about transporting drugs across state lines, and you're having Sean Combs' inner circle do it, that might help racketeering. And the more they talk about the assistants and the team, and I still believe Christina Quorum's going to testify. I don't know for sure, but I have to imagine.
Yeah, she has been officially named a co-conspirator.
And in terms of the idea of
and
lack of consent, there were certain parts where it seemed to me that she was expressing her dissatisfaction with certain sex workers, or
she was dissatisfied with that Tootsie Roll.
Period, and she basically.
How could they really be in love with? Okay, I done already told y'all he get them high and mask it up and
continue having sex in those episodes, right? I mean, if we're talking about a lack of consent and forcing her to do it, weren't there moments that seemed not great for the prosecution?
So we heard about a number of exhibits where these escorts' photographs were shown to the jury and obviously shown to the witness, that being Jane. And so there was one exhibit where it was Dawn the escort, and that she and Diddy had used them up until August of 2024, and that's notably a month before his arrest. There was Paul the escort, and she had been using him from 2021 up until the last time, and that being July of 2024. That he was a personal trainer, he trained Diddy, but he also worked for Cowboys for Angels. You saw him in places like Los Angeles and Miami and Turks and Caicos. There's Leo the escort, met him in 2022 on her birthday, saw him up until 2023. They used him every so often. And another escort named Michael, but there was one escort who was unnamed where we had kind of been alluding to him a little bit, and he's the one that Jane was explaining that she was immediately repulsed by him. He was really sweaty, he smelled, she was hesitant with him. She said she tried to make it work, she tried to seduce him, she tried to make an
nasty and funky,
ugly, so much, nasty and that she was just kind of throwing looks at her partner, and her partner being Sean Combs, and she was trying to avoid performing oral sex on this unnamed escort. She said she told Diddy that she wasn't feeling it, so Diddy and Jane had sex while the escort was there, and he was kind of hovering over her, according to her testimony, and staring at her, and that Diddy finally excused the man. But Diddy came up with a plan B, where he brought in another escort in place of this man that repulsed Jane, and that person was Paul. And so there were times she was explaining that she didn't want to do the hotel night. So she had said that there was one night that she and Diddy were bickering because she didn't want to do the nights anymore, and that Diddy said, well, you don't have to do it anymore. And Jane said that she didn't believe that he really meant that, so she went back to the hotel room. Diddy gave her ecstasy, and then an escort came over, a sex worker came over, and Jane said that she just couldn't do it with this man, but she wanted to make it up to Diddy. And so she later called another escort, and that escort being Cabral, and she said,
ugly, nasty, sweaty, and funky.
But I think as far as maybe a juror is concerned, that could be a little
gross.
It's like, okay, is it sex trafficking, or are you
that's
just
why
doing
she was
what
throwing up
at the time, or partner is just kind of wanting as far as his own sexual desires? Is it really non-consensual? I think that's kind of a moment that I personally was trying to hear about, where she was just like, this is non-consensual. I didn't get my...
Yeah, it's 345 people in here. Get the likes up.
There hasn't been an instance that I can recall of her actually just being like, this is non-consensual from what I've heard so far. But then...
Before I throw that funky sweat on y'all.
Escorts that were shown the witness and the jurors that they weren't the only escorts that were used.
Sling that
there was one man
sweat.
who was African American. He was an actor or a singer. They met twice at a hotel in LA.
Wait, who?
Spanish man met in 2022.
Actor and singer.
Paul. And so there were times she was explaining that she didn't want to do the hotel night. So she had said that there was one night that she and Diddy were bickering because she didn't want to do the nights anymore, and that Diddy said, well, you don't have to do it anymore. And Jane said that she didn't believe that he really meant that, so she went back to the hotel room. Diddy gave her ecstasy, and then an escort came over, a sex worker came over, and Jane said that she just couldn't do it with this man, but she wanted to make it up to Diddy. And so she later called another escort, and that escort being Cabral, and she said, at this point in my relationship, she just knew what Diddy wanted. But I think as far as maybe a juror is concerned, that could be a little confusing, where it's like, okay, is it sex trafficking, or are you just doing what your partner at the time or partner is just kind of wanting as far as his own sexual desires? Is it really non-consensual? I think that's kind of a moment that I personally was trying to hear about, where she was just like, this is non-consensual. I didn't give my permission for this to happen. But it seemed like from her testimony that we've heard so far, there hasn't been an instance that I can recall of her actually just being like, this is non-consensual from what I've heard so far. But then she said, as far as all the escorts that were shown to the witness and the jurors, that they weren't the only escorts that were used. She said there was one man who was African American. He was an actor or a singer. They met twice at a hotel in LA. There was a Spanish man met in 2022. She said he was a bit odd. There was a European man, met him in LA twice. But she said all the
y'all know
minus Cabral.
Oh, he actor or singer. What about the missing dancer out of New York who did the sex acts and stuff too? Remember Williams, Zelig Williams. Let us not forget about him. He's actor. He does that Broadway stuff. He missing, right? Zelig Williams. I know y'all thought I forgot. I ain't forgot about nothing.
People that Sean knew, he set up these entertainers, and that as far as her kind of role in setting up the entertainers or escorts or sex workers, that she really kind of focused on Cabral and Anton, as far as these were the two that she had reached out to personally, and said that she knew it was to be expected that she was going to continue doing this. And she kept saying, I knew he expected me to coordinate the nights where
they had a contract,
and so I think that part of the
for him to pay her rent and she
in a very
do
kind of
porn.
confusing way, because again, to what we're
why he acting like he her boyfriend, but he really in love with the man.
But according to her, it seemed like she did participate in them, and she did them at kind of the hest of Diddy, but also because she wanted to in a way. And so it seemed like that's kind of where it was going, a little confusing at parts for sure.
Yeah, and I know that if I read it correctly, there were times she said he was so sweet. You know, she talked about the love she had for him. She wanted to be in his arms. I mean, you're testifying against a criminal defendant accused of sex trafficking you, and I wonder if those could be problematic
when you drug somebody.
Reacting to all this.
Yeah, so as far as the jury is reacting, I'm really kind of
I
seeing
agree.
no
Amazing
outwardly
Trace.
facial expressions from what I could see from them today, because I did get a little better view of them today, especially the second and third row. I think once the text messages started kind of getting a little more redundant and kept just going on and on and on, I did see some jurors kind of looking over to the clock, especially once we got to that 4 p.m. hour, 5 p.m. hour. People, I think, were kind of like, okay, it's almost the weekend, it's a Friday. But for the most part, I did see them still actively listening to the testimony. So they would either look at Maureen Comey, who was doing the questioning for the prosecution, or they would just look at Jane. And so there were some jurors who were doing kind of the back and forth. There were some who were just laser
Please hit the like button coming in.
Coming out, and when they were seeing those exhibit photos, I did see a lot of jurors really kind of intently looking at their screen, maybe just reading all the messages, because as fast as I try to write them, they really do go by pretty fast, and it was a lot of messages that they were sent. So I wonder what their thoughts were, kind of seeing this and seeing some of the more explicit photos and text messages that were sent from Diddy to Jane, or from Jane to Diddy, and even some of the messages that were sent to the escorts or entertainers too.
And how is Diddy behaving? Because we know he got into trouble yesterday for allegedly nodding at the jurors during a key piece of examination of a prosecution witness. Was he animated today? I heard reporting that he might have been animated with his attorneys, but how was he responding to the jury? And did he seem quite involved in today's testimony?
I feel like at one point today, I was kind of looking for maybe when the jury was entering that he would just kind of look over. But from what I could see, because I made sure to watch his reaction when they had entered the room and even left the courtroom today, just to see like what his body language was like. And it seemed like from him, from what I could see of him, that he was really looking at the judge at this point. But I will say, as far as Jane taking the witness stand, I did see him turn back in his chair, kind of look at her walk to the witness stand. And this is before the jury enters the courtroom. And so what
was he mad?
Bring out the witness, and then they'll bring out the jury after that. And so it seemed like from Diddy's perspective, I think what the judge told him yesterday really kind of resonated with him, because I don't think he wanted to get on the judge's bad side 2 days in a row. And so from what I could see of him in just the moments that the jury was entering and leaving the courtroom, it was just like, okay, don't look at them, don't make contact with them, and don't nod at them either.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised. The judge basically said that, he said to his counsel, you know, I've seen him nodding. So any attempt to influence the jury, big no-no, particularly for a guy who's accused of intimidating alleged victims and witnesses and associates. I mean, there is a concern there, but particularly, I mean, I wonder if Sean Combs was on a high yesterday because of the really what appeared to be successful cross-examination of Brianna Bongolan. You know, he might have been feeling good about it and nodding towards them. So the judge basically said, I will give a limiting instruction next time to the jury that you won't like. Maybe something along the lines of, jury, you might have seen the defendant nodding at you, communicating inappropriately to you. Ignore it. It's not evidence. That probably doesn't look too good. Or it might even kick him out of the courtroom if it really does repeat, which he could potentially do. Yeah. So he's not doing that. By the way, was he animated with his attorneys? I saw some reporting about that, maybe during Jane's testimony.
How can juror? Hold on, let me read what you put.
It should be based on how you live. Whether you're a casual streamer, a tech...
Jane's testimony?
There were times, like, for example, when all the text messages were shown, the photographs were shown, you could see him kind of, like, get up on where he's
he's looking at the crowd.
Really look at these text messages. I did see him at points just really kind of listening to what Jane said while she was on the witness stand, but also passing notes to his attorneys. We believe that it's going to be Tenny Garagos who's the one cross-examining Jane whenever that time comes next week. But I did see him kind of whispering things to her, jotting notes down, passing them off to her. And so he is kind of animated in his own way, but I think it's because he's also an active participant in his defense. I don't think there's ever a point that I've seen so far since this trial began where he's really just sits the entire day and doesn't pass any type of notes. He really
the judge got on the jury today?
On his defense and doing what he can.
Amazing, Trace. The judge got on the jury.
Elizabeth, would I be wrong that the prosecution was maybe successful today with her testimony in proving transportation to engage in prostitution, namely that Combs or his associates transported people, so sex workers, performers, and alleged victims for the purposes of prostitution, for sex work? Was there a lot of testimony about that today, whether it was assistants, whether it was even Jane, him, you know, the flow of cash, things like that? Was there a lot about the prostitution and the transportation angle?
So there was a lot of discussion about transportation to engage in prostitution, specifically when it comes to Jane. So, for example, there was one escort that they used, and this was the first escort that Jane even booked herself, and this was a man named Cabral, but he was someone who was from Atlanta that they coordinated his travel arrangements, and it would either be Jane coordinating his travel arrangement, then she'd be...
I hope they stop it. I hope he stop it if he feels like that. Pressure. It sounds like he watching.
But I think the government
it looked like they have already peeked it.
Oh, okay.
Because Tisa can already tell you which one. So I hope they remove her.
That they had booked Cabral from Atlanta to New York.
Because they can show dismiss her.
She was explaining that there were escorts used in Miami and New York and Los Angeles.
Because they say it's really only one.
Turks and Caicos. So as far as their Turks and Caicos trip.
And now we know that they are telling. They are telling on the jury and Diddy.
Had together at the beginning of their relationship, and she thought that this was just going to be a trip for her and Diddy to reconnect, really just kind of get the love back that they had had that type of trip. And she was explaining that she thought that it would, again, just be the two of them, but then it wasn't, that another escort had ended up coming, and that this escort was actually...
They got backups, though, so now the jury don't... it's one juror. It says one.
Escort had come, and that they had this 24-hour, one-day hotel night with him, and that she said that Jane was happy about this. After it was over, she had explained. She says that she...
And it's the judge. It ain't the prosecution team.
And Diddy had asked her, do you have more in you? And then he then invited Paul over to their villa, and then Diddy gave her this two-heart bracelet. She says that Paul was really nice, but she just didn't want to have sex with him. But she says that she remembers that that night was super painful. She couldn't have sex anymore because she was extremely sore, especially after the fourth round that they were doing this.
I know they are sore, bow-legged and everything.
Along the lines of, oh, you can't take any more D. And then Jane ended up throwing this bracelet that she had and said, you only want me here to suck D. And Jane was saying that she walked out. Diddy followed her and said something along the lines to her as, how could you do that in front of Paul? Diddy told her to apologize to Paul, and that she ended up doing that because she said, I did make a scene, and she ended up apologizing to him. However, Diddy didn't apologize. Example, there was one escort that they used, and this was the first escort that Jane even booked herself, and this was a man named Cabral, but he was someone who was from Atlanta that they coordinated just his travel arrangements, and it was
he traveled,
coordinating his
travel.
Then she'd be reimbursed by Diddy, or
he traveled
travel agent, because again, this is a man who's very well.
He traveled across state lines.
Travel agent, but I think the government is really kind of placing.
He traveled across state lines
to be like, oh, okay, you guys had flown him out from Atlanta to Los Angeles to attend these hotel nights. There was another time where that they had booked Cabral from Atlanta to New York to engage in these
traveled across state lines.
She was explaining that there were escorts used in Miami and New York and Los Angeles, all the way to
traveling hookers.
So as far as their Turks and Caicos trip, this was a trip that Jane really wanted to go on because this kind of reminded her of the first lovely trip that the two had together at the beginning of their relationship.
Traveled across state lines.
Going to be a trip for her and Diddy to reconnect.
Oh, wow.
Really just kind of get the love back that they had had that type of trip. And she was explaining that she thought that it would, again, just be the two of them, but then it wasn't, that another escort had ended up coming, and that this escort
is a true narcissist.
So she was explaining that after the first day in this particular
he is a bitch.
And Caicos, that Paul, the escort, had come, and that they had this 24-hour, one-day hotel night with him, and that
what you mean he's the fire guy? Yeah, he burning.
After it was over,
he's showing up on fire. He the devil.
She was excited to cuddle with Sean Combs, and Diddy had asked her, do you have more in you? And then he then invited Paul over to their villa, and then Diddy gave her this two-heart bracelet. She says that Paul was really nice, but she just didn't want to have sex with him. But she says that she remembers that that night was super painful. She couldn't have sex anymore because she was extremely sore, especially after the
Paul had
round that they were doing
big
Diddy
jumbo.
gave her more lubricants, and Diddy said something along the lines of, oh, you can't take any more D. And then Jane ended up throwing this bracelet that she had and said, you only want me here to suck D. And Jane was saying that she walked out. Diddy followed her and said something along the lines to her as, how could you do that in front of Paul? Diddy told her to apologize to Paul, and that she ended up doing that because she said, I did make a scene, and she ended up apologizing to him. However, Diddy didn't apologize to Jane for what he had done. And so it seems like, as far as just the arguments of transportation to engage in prostitution, I think Maureen Comey does kind of an excellent job of being like, okay, well, where did this occur? Where did you fly him out to? At what time? And who booked the travel arrangement? How were you reimbursed, if you were reimbursed? And so I think they're kind of, again, laying that foundation enough where it's kind of like, okay, you really do kind of, from the government's perspective, it seems like they do have a strong case, especially for the transportation to engage in prostitution, especially because they're in so many various cities, and then they even go outside of the country and internationally too.
Yeah, and also there was discussion of cash and cash on hand and cash with the assistants and paying. So yeah, I think that is still a very, very tough charge, or two charges for Sean Combs' defense team to argue against, but we'll see. Look, I will tell you this much also. This was not an easy day for this jury. We didn't even get into the graphic details, the specifics of these sexual encounters, because It's not necessary to the, I mean, just use your imagination if you want about what he was directing and what was going on.
They thought
I'm not going to get
they
into it.
had a sugar
It's pretty
daddy.
disgusting to say the least. You want to read about it? Go read about it.
She thought she liked lollipops too.
Have you heard about Ryoko Pro?
And hot dogs, baby.
Wi-Fi hotspot.
Ooh, they thought they had a sugar daddy for real.
But I do understand that there was some sexually explicit material
Oh my God.
that was shown to the jury.
Yeah, and so Maureen Comey kind of backed it up just a little bit, where she would ask Jane about whether or not Diddy recorded these hotel nights, and Jane explained that Diddy would record these nights on his iPhone, that Diddy would give directions during these hotel nights.
They probably was live in some
lines of use baby oil, have the man or have this man stand for this amount of
They
time.
probably had a whole bunch of Jay-Z and a whole bunch of their friends watching while they was doing live.
Recorded her sober. She was always on
porn.
ecstasy. She was on Molly. Jane was saying that she acted like she enjoyed it, but she said she just wanted to put on a good show for Sean. And she was asked, why were you role-playing? And she said, because that's what Sean liked. And so Jane said that in some of these sexually explicit videos and recordings that she would laugh because she was just so high on different drugs. And so the jury was able to see a number of exhibits of this sexually explicit material, where it was Jane and Dawn, for example, Dawn and Escort, that was during a hotel night. It was Jane and Cabral during a hotel night, Jane and Paul during a hotel night, Jane and Cabral again during a hotel night, Jane and Paul again during a hotel night. Cabral and Paul do sound very similar, but they are very two different men. It was Jane and Leo, Jane and Dawn, Jane and Anton, and then Cabral and Paul were both used in different periods. And so she said that as far as just the exhibits that were shown, while the images that the jury did see were specifically Jane and the other escort, she said that Diddy was present through all of this. So there wasn't any video that was shown as far as just kind of any of the hotel nights being shown just from like playing 30 seconds of or any of that. It was really just screenshots that were shown. That will go back with the jury as far as evidence is concerned. And so they were in for a lot today, and they did see a lot of exhibits today, but we inside the gallery, we are not able to see those images, so we don't know exactly what's depicted on them beyond who the two are in the photo.
Not easy sitting on this jury, and I understand the testimony is going to continue. The defense hasn't even had an opportunity to cross-examine her yet, but we already picked upon some points that they may focus on as well. Elizabeth Milner, great reporting today. Great
Absolutely. Shout out to Elizabeth. Hold on.
Thanks, Jesse.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar.
Hold
Everybody,
on.
thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hold on.
I'm Jesse Weber.
Thank you, Jesse and Elizabeth. Hold on, y'all. That was a bunch. I ain't gonna even lie. Woo.
Hi, I'm Eva Pilgrim. Thanks for streaming with us. Incredibly graphic testimony today in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. And we have to warn you, some of what you hear may be disturbing. The third alleged victim, who goes by the pseudonym Jane, was back on the witness stand for her first full day of testimony. The prosecutor played an audio recording for the jury of a hotel night with a male prostitute Jane identified as Dawn. On the recording, Jane and Dawn are looking for a condom, but Combs didn't allow it and can be heard saying, quote, "You're taking that expletive." Jane testified, quote,
"You taking that D?
Did
he tell her you taking that D?
Would be unhappy.
Oh, wow.
Wouldn't be satisfied with
Oh,
me."
wow.
Jane went on to tearfully tell the jury about her birthday in 2023 when she said she was made to have sex with 3 different men in a...
Her dude allegedly told her you taking that D from another dude.
Thanks for streaming with us. Incredibly graphic testimony today in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. And we have to warn you, some of what you hear may be disturbing. The third alleged victim, who goes by the pseudonym Jane, was back on the witness stand for her first full day of testimony. The prosecutor played an audio recording for the jury of a hotel night with a male prostitute Jane identified as Dawn. On the recording, Jane and Dawn are looking for a condom, but Combs didn't allow it and can be heard saying, quote, "You're taking that expletive." Jane testified, quote, "I just didn't want to disappoint my lover. He would be unhappy and wouldn't be satisfied with me." Jane went on to tearfully tell the jury about her birthday in 2023 when she said she was made to have sex with 3 different men in addition to Combs. The prosecutor asked,
in addition to Diddy.
I don't
know. So 4. She had 4 in one night.
And added that she turned robotic. Jane told the jury that after a while, Combs didn't have to directly ask her for these hotel nights. She testified, "I knew it was to be expected." Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges. If convicted, he faces the possibility of life in prison. Coming up, we have a former SDNY district court judge to give us some insight on what it's like to be in charge of such a high-profile case. Plus, we're taking you inside a courtroom identical to the one in this trial, so you can get a better sense of where this is all playing out. But we begin with ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Kotursky live outside the federal courthouse here in Manhattan. And Aaron, we heard from Jane today. What did she tell the jury?
This was a deeply unsettling day, Eva, because Jane outlined the sex that she said she was made to have with at least 11 different men. She saw photos of all of those men. She said she couldn't remember all their names, but she knew them as Leo or Michael or Paul. Paul, she said, was Sean Combs' trainer. And she said that she was made to have sex with these men in Turks and Caicos, in New York, in Los Angeles, in Miami. And she said that it became so routine that she just became robotic. She knew what she had to wear. She knew that the baby oil would get all over her feet, make them sticky. She'd be unsteady. She talked about the soreness in her back from being made to be in one position all the time, performing oral sex at Sean Combs' direction. She remembered the infections that she got and how she was not allowed ample time to heal before the next hotel night. And even the jury saw some of her anguished text messages telling Sean Combs that she couldn't do it anymore. And the jury heard his response in a voice note, his voice booming throughout the courtroom, where the response seemed unsympathetic, calling her crazy.
What was she like on the stand, Aaron?
She sits there and is almost meek. She's not a meek-looking person. She's a presence. Her hair swept to one side. She was in sort of a magenta or more maroon, I guess, skirt suit. But her voice was so soft, and for much of her testimony, she was sobbing audibly. She needed to pause to dab her eyes. Her sniffles were right into the microphone, so they were quite loud and really punctuated the difficulty of her testimony.
The jurors were shown photos of Jane with various men during those hotel nights. How did they react to seeing those pictures?
This wasn't the first sexually explicit material that the jury had seen, but you couldn't help but be almost heartbroken for what she said she was put through. And I think that showed on some of the jurors' faces as she talked about the sheer repetitiveness and how she was made to dress and what she was made to do each and every time. But as the afternoon wore on, I think the jury, I'm not sure they became inured, but their reaction, they listened, but they did not show as much of a visual reaction, especially when there were these lengthy text exchanges that Jane was made to read. And her notes, before she would text Sean Combs, she said she would gather her thoughts by taking notes on her phone, and prosecutors made her read those as if to corroborate her feelings.
Jane also discussed a hotel night that happened in July 2024. Why is that timeline detail important here?
There was one in July 2024. She also said
went the
last one she remembered
wisdom.
was in August 2024. And so that shows that just weeks before his arrest in September 2024, Sean Combs was engaging in the kind of behavior for which he was under a federal investigation. And Jane said it persisted throughout their 3-year relationship, such that 90% of the time they were together, she was involved in having sex with other men.
What was Combs' reaction to all of this today?
he was listening intently and following along with glasses on to read some of the text messages, hers and his. And of course, he listened to his own voice as it echoed around the courtroom.
Yeah, that was a lot.
The voice note messages that he left her, saying that he didn't want to do this with her anymore, saying that she was being dramatic or confronting
I think
him
he
about
did.
sex.
It sounds like
But Jane
it
also
sounds
talked
like to
about
me
how
that
Sean-
he made her go hard like that because of who her baby daddy was. I mean, I ain't even with Cassie. He beat her, and it sounded like she got beatings too if it was something that came up in 2024. But 3 guys in one night and him too. Oh, yeah. I don't remember Cassie saying she had to do 4 in one night. She had long nights. But 4 in one night?
Combs paid for her
He
teeth
punished
and
her.
veneers because he didn't like her teeth, and paid her $10,000 a month rent, which she said he seemed to hover over her and always brought it up so that she was reminded that he was paying the rent. It made her feel obligated, she said, to perform in these hotel nights. And at one point, Combs kind of winced a little bit. Remember, though, he's not supposed to show facial expressions because the judge said that could get him kicked out of court.
Aaron Katursky for us there at the courthouse. Aaron, thank you so much. And here now to break down the testimony from today is ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer. We heard from Jane on the stand. What stood out to you about her testimony today?
I mean, just a few things. I mean, Aaron talks about that $10,000. They found out that Sean Combs is supposedly still paying that $10,000 a month. But there were other things where she would talk about the sexual abuse and as well as these debaucherous nights or hotel nights, because she doesn't refer to them as freak-offs. And you would get to the point where she would be told to have sexual intercourse with a male escort, and she said that, well, I didn't want to do it because he wasn't attractive, and then go into a room with Sean Combs and there would be a conversation, and he would look disappointed, but ultimately he would say that person can go, only to get another person to come in. And so for me, I was kind of 2 minds. One, Sean Combs, at least in this instance, is not showing the violence and aggression that we saw in Cassie's testimony, but here he's still saying, well, it's still going to happen, just not with the person that you're choosing. I think both sides are going to be able to use that fact
it's still
how they
happen.
want to in terms of benefiting their case. It's going to be very interesting when cross-examination comes up on those points.
We've also heard testimony about drugs in this case. Jane talked about it today. How does what we heard from her play into the charges here?
So I know a lot of the time we're talking about the freak-offs, the hotel nights, the debauchery, whatever you want to call it. And that's a big part of the RICO conspiracy. But there are a lot of underlying charges as well involving drug sale and drug use across state lines that if any one of those predicate acts are used in the form of trying to find Sean Combs guilty, he can be found guilty, maybe not of the freak-offs, but of providing drugs and selling drugs to the people who are participating in it. So I think it's a strong point to make nonetheless, even if, let's say, the jury, for whatever reason, doesn't believe Cassie, Mia, and Jane.
Jane testified today, and you mentioned that he's still paying the $10,000 for her house. That money played a role in her decision to stay. Why does that matter in this case?
Because that's what the government is hanging their hat on.
Well, they had a whole contract, though.
Forget, sex trafficking is through force, fraud, or coercion.
They had a contract.
They're attaching it to. But the numbers really played out in my mind, because my understanding is she started dating Sean Combs in 2021. There was a lease agreement that we saw that was signed on April 4th of 2023. And then months after that, there were messages about not wanting to participate in these hotel nights. I think that timeline, as well as where she might have been living with her child beforehand, the fact that she said she wanted a big home and a big yard for her child, that's going to, I know is going to come up again against cross-examination and asking the question of, could there have been alternative resources for this home, and you merely just wanted to live with Sean Combs, not wanting to do something else?
So Jane also showed receipts today as well. What were these receipts for? What's the significance of them here?
All right, so when we talk about receipts, the receipts were about the repayment of some of these flights for the sex workers or the entertainers that she would put on her own car, the flight to go from Atlanta, for example, to New York, where they may be, and then making sure they were taken care of by leaving money downstairs. Sometimes
Thank you, RB.
Directly, and then get reimbursed with Sean Combs. And some of those payments and receipts show that Sean Combs is still in one way, shape, or form, directly or indirectly, participating in this racketeering conspiracy.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
And you mentioned
a whole
this,
train ran
this
on
person
her.
that she was choosing and not choosing. That person she was flying back and forth was someone she told the jury that she chose. Why does that matter here?
So why it matters is because you know you're going to hear it when the defense takes the stand or has an opportunity to cross-examine Jane and say, well, you chose to do this, in the same way that we heard with Cassie as well. But here, we're going to see that she says she felt pressure to do so, that she chose these two specific workers, I think it was Cabral and another gentleman by the name of Anton, because the other one she didn't feel safe with. She didn't know them. She figured, if I'm going to participate in this, I might as well participate with people that I know and I feel safe with. And I think getting ahead of that and making that statement rather than having Combs' attorney attack her for that was a smart move by the government.
The jury was also shown some text messages between Jane and Combs. What did those messages say?
All right, so here we have a couple of examples of the text messages here, and it really highlighted the point in one sense that she wanted to participate. And she explained those text messages saying, well, I wanted to keep it alive. I wanted to keep the intimacy going because I know that's what he wanted. Again, what he wanted, not necessarily about violence attributed to it, but also talking about she wanted the getaway. She wanted to spend time with him. He promised that. I think there might be an argument about fraud there. That
She really, all these people think they was in a relationship.
Always got veered back into these hotel nights, these debaucheries. And so what she wanted, a relationship. What she got, sex work in a sense.
Brian, thank you so much for being here with us. And still ahead, we take you inside the courthouse, inside a courtroom identical to the one where Sean Combs is on trial. And up next, Brian and Bernardo Villalona break down the prosecution and defense strategies at the end of day 18 of testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial.
When Google Fiber first launched 1 gig, it cost
$70.
okay, but today
Welcome back to ABC News Live. Another week of testimony in the books in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Jane taking the stand again, testifying about the explicit sexual encounters during her relationship with the music mogul. Let's examine the key legal strategies we saw play out in court today. We have Brian Buckmeyer breaking down the defense, Bernardo Villalona analyzing the prosecution. Bernardo, we're going to start with you because this was an interesting point that Brian raised just a minute ago. Jane said at a certain point she expected these sexual encounters. She wasn't really saying no. So what's the strategy here? Is this something that's going to hurt the prosecution's case?
I think it's definitely going to all come down to closing arguments. And the reason I say that, because Jane is much more difficult to decipher this coercion part. I mean, you can say the prosecution is saying, well, you know, he was paying her rent and paying her expenses and she relied on that and he will hold it back if she didn't engage into these freak-offs. But I think the prosecution is also taking into account the testimony of Dawn Hughes, the expert, hoping that this jury still remembers what she said in terms of gaslighting, because that's pretty much what you get from the testimony that Jane is given, where Sean Combs would be like, you're crazy, you're not making any sense, this doesn't make any sense, and blaming things on her. But she got so robotic because of how many times she participated in
She called him a liar.
She said that 90% of the time after the first hotel night, not freak off, hotel night, that 90% of the time that she spent with Sean Combs was actually engaging in these hotel nights with these different escorts.
Yeah,
So Brian, is
I think
this
she's
a
a good
problem
witness.
for the defense or an opportunity?
Absolutely.
I think every witness they put on is a problem, but I think they can turn into an opportunity because they can juxtapose and confront the fact that Cassie
And I say that
and
because,
Jane
hold
are
on,
two
let me
very
stop.
different situations. I think.
Let me stop because I
later
mean,
in the afternoon.
They good witnesses because it's the truth. It's their truth. It's not about you know, should they have put them on the stand? Yeah, they got to, because these are the women that really have real life experiences. They're all saying the same things at different times. You know, they all wanted a relationship with him. They thought that these trips and stuff were to be with him. And some shape, some form of fashion, he flips it around and then it becomes a a pimp off. You know, I'm looking at him like he a pimp. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have something set up while they are performing. He is filming, and it could have a whole production somewhere watching this freak off live. You know, or some Pornhub, or you know, for live entertainment. I would not be surprised if that wasn't what was going on, and he all in somebody's ear talking nasty to try to coach her into performing, and some man's over her funky, sweaty. Yeah, I think if somebody is being real, and I don't care if somebody is getting paid for it or what have you, it's still a trick to me. You still coerce them. You know, you, and they said gaslighting it and all that type of stuff. You just bamboozled them. You pimped them. You tricked them. You tricked them. Oh, I can't wait to celebrate. It's your birthday, baby girl. Let's go here. Let's go there. And already in his mind, he already have it planned up for a freak out. He knew that these women loved his dirty draws and would do anything for him. He baby loved them in the beginning. What they call it, love bombed them in the beginning. Gave them some sex that they really thought was him, but they didn't realize he had on the rubber ducky. After he got them high. And yeah, I think they are good witnesses for what they want it to be. People don't understand how racketeering and RICO works nowadays. And if everybody is thinking about it back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s with the Bambinos and the, you know, Sammy the Bull, that's not how it is anymore. So they have to break it down with different people. Because listen, what she just said, to be honest with you, I haven't heard any one of them testify about the way she did with the different sex workers booking their flights to from Atlanta to here to there. I mean, yeah, we've heard of the sex workers, but to really doing transporting, and then she's the only one that says something that I remember about transporting drugs on a plane. So yeah. Pearls, what part do you say? What now? So who asked me that? Christine. Yeah. So yeah, Christine, I do. Because I've heard some things on day one with her I haven't heard in great details like she just put it. So what happened with the drugs? And she was like, whoa, what? And then she said, oh yeah, well, I've done it. KK said, I've done it before. We do it all the time, and I'll have the security guy give it to you. So she's implementing with this enterprise, right? She done implement. KK says she done transported drugs, and then the security is wrapped into it as well, providing her the drugs to transport to Diddy. Ain't none of them said that before. None of them. Everybody done took drugs. Everybody, you know, but ain't none of them that I've heard said they've transported them. And then when she breaks it down on several guys that in this business, in this enterprise, where she has did the pay for the air for the hotel visit, however she call them, the XXX workers to fly. So yeah, I think she's great. Are they gonna beat her up on cross-examination? Yeah, but everybody has to already know that coming in when they take the deal or to not be a co-conspirator, because she would be a co-conspirator. So she would have had to have been offered a deal. Had to be offered a deal, right? Because I can see why she did not want to implement herself. I can see why she was like, And I can also see why Diddy would have been gun-ho in thinking that she would not testify against him. One, because he's still paying her rent. Two, because he had her deeply involved, right? I believe they have proven, oh yeah, I mean, but, so they going above and beyond proving RICO. You let me tell it, because, ooh-wee. I mean, that's why I'm saying it's just certain, even if they had somebody that was going to throw it, they have it set up where there is just no way you can say, nah, I don't think that's what that is. This girl has just said that KK gave wanted her to give go back to wherever Puffy was with, and the security guy was gonna give it to her. Girl, we do it all the time, and she got a paper trail of that. No witness, no juror, even if they thought that they was gonna throw it. You cannot say that you can't see that. She just laid it out. She just laid it out that because of Puffy, and she, so let's say she paid for it out of her own account. The corporation reimbursed her. There's no way you can't say that that's transporting a hooker across state lines. You understand? So yes, I think she is a great witness, but with that comes a beating. And so, and I'm saying by the defense team, they're gonna make her seem like that's this way. They're gonna make her seem like this way. I'm sure they already know that, just like they did a Banner. But then they have an expert that done already pulled the evidence that's going to be able to back what she said. Just like everybody was saying, Banner was lying, right? She lying, he ain't dangle her off. But then they already have an expert that done pull, they done to pull evidence to say no, that was true. All it was she had the wrong dates. The jury may not see it like, yeah, but they are going to, I showed you how they're going to have it where it's evident. They're going to have it laid out and show you which one of the ones who which one of the guys that they paid to go across state lines. There's no way you can't say that they may not see it that way. He got on the plane. He was an escort. He got on the plane. He did not pay for his flight. She paid for it. The organization, the corporation reimbursed. No, I mean, it may not be all of them, but the way that is coming out now, how you gonna say, oh well, yeah, he a sex worker, yeah, he went out of town with him, but and he got paid, but it was just a vacation. No, no. They are triple cowboys and Indians. What's the name of the angels and hoes? What's the name of the place that they pick up these people from? That's what they are. No. I mean, to say stuff like that just means that everybody is just, no. That ain't no slippery slope. What she put in her mouth when her mouth was with that baby oil was a slippery slope. And then this dude gonna tell her, so you can't take the D. Oh wow! I'd have spit all that baby oil in his face and told him to go up his own self. Yeah, bend over. Let me put this rubber ducky in your butt. I'd I'd have went out like waiting to exhale instead of flicking the cigarette and burning up his car. I'd have. Let me stop. Let me.
There was a lot of examples of her saying, well, this male escort came in and he was smelly. He wasn't attractive. I wasn't feeling the vibe. And I went to...
Oh my God.
The reason I say that, because Jane is much more difficult to decipher this coercion part. I mean, you can say,
hey,
the prosecution is saying, well, you know,
double
he was paying her
X-rays.
rent and paying her expenses, and she relied on that, and he will hold it back if she didn't engage into these freak-offs. But I think the prosecution is also taking into account the testimony of Dawn Hughes, the expert, hoping that this jury still remembers what she said in terms of gaslighting, because that's pretty much what you get from the testimony that Jane is given, where Sean Combs would be like, you're crazy, you're not making any sense, this doesn't make any sense, and blaming things on her. But she got so robotic because of how many times she participated in these freak-offs. She said that 90% of the time after the first hotel night, not freak-off, hotel night, that 90% of the time that she spent with Sean Combs was actually engaging in these hotel nights with these different escorts.
So, Ryan, is this a problem for the defense or an opportunity?
I think every witness they put on is a problem, but I think they can turn into an opportunity because they can juxtapose and confront the fact that Cassie and Jane are two very different situations. I think when I was later in the afternoon or morning, there was a lot of examples of her saying, well, this male escort came in and he was smelly. He wasn't attractive. I wasn't feeling the vibe. And I went to the room. I told Sean I didn't want to participate in this. And he gave me a look that he was disappointed. But Sean said he can go away.
Well, sir, I don't know if you remember, but Cassie didn't like Jonathan Gotti. She thought that he was weird and it was something about him. And then come to find out he was recording her and passed the video around. But that's all Diddy doing too.
And that was fine.
But then he brought another one.
Yeah.
Then he'll bring a different escort. So it's not like, oh, tonight we're not getting it in. It's I'm going to bring someone else because you're not going to ruin my night.
Correct. But it's not the force or the coercion or the beating that we saw with Cassie.
But I said this is a different type of coercion. This is a mental one, a financial one.
So, oh wow. So y'all remember, so before it was like, so because it's not domestic violence, right? Because first they were saying, oh, it's just too much domestic. So now because it's not domestic just yet, now it don't sound forced. But when it was domestic, they were saying it wasn't forced. You see how they see it? This is gaslighting to me. See, because this is the same knucklehead. Did you just, yeah, a knucklehead that when it was Cassie, oh well, that's not force, that is domestic. Now he's saying because there is not no beatings, well, there's no force because he's not putting hands on her. Oh wow. And when it comes out that he is putting hands on her, it comes in later, then what? You gonna move the goalpost again? No, see, that's what men do. That's a pressure move.
By accounts, she might have been a millionaire if you're following certain people. But
I'm just playing pressure.
The force there, she kept saying when asked that ultimate question by the government, but why did you do it? She didn't have the Cassie answer of like, oh, he was.
We gonna hear from the escort how they feel about the hotel night.
It wasn't the force there. It was she wanted to do it.
As of now, I think.
Oh, they know they was hooking hot out after
yesterday. She was on the stand.
Oh, okay, we done heard from a couple of them. The Punisher really thought he was chosen. Remember? He said he didn't think, well, you know, I just really thought she was into me. He can't even get his story right. When Cameron asked him, was the coochie good? He gonna say, well, I can't cause I couldn't get it up. And then he turned around and was saying, oh, he was really into it. And it was, and then something happened, and well, I thought you said you couldn't get it up. I thought you said that you had to find. Well, Renee laughing. I had to, you know. He a big old contradiction. He a liar. So don't put no lying workers up there, cause 1 minute it felt so good to him that he thought that was his girlfriend, and then the next minute he's saying, well, I was looking for the freezing meat because he kept pacing back and forth. Which one is it? Huh? Which one is it? Was the coochie good? You don't want nobody to know that it was so good to you that you thought that she was really into you. So quit lying. You know it was good to you. That's why you thought she was your woman. Now shut up, Mr. Punisher, before I hurt your feelings. That's why. And when you found out that she really wasn't that much into you, you went limp as a... Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to say that. Hold on. Let me double check. Let me double check some. Yeah, he lying. They all thought they were special. Just well, they did think they were special, but you know they did. Hi, Alfred. I'm trying to speak to you, but that just threw me off right there. That old freeze of me. Yeah, I couldn't. I don't know. I can't answer that because Diddy was there pacing. Yeah, he was pacing when you thought that she was into you because you was chosen again. Now, why would they keep calling you back 2 or 3 times if you was having erectile dysfunctions then? That thing didn't go to the left until you figured out that you wasn't going to get it no more. No, stop playing with yourself. Oh, well, I mean, you know.
All day today, so I think they're dealing with the coercion part. But remember from opening statement, there is at least one time where there was violence, and I think that's where they'll get to on Monday.
Well, okay, this witness is expected to stay on
someone else because you're not going to ruin my night.
Correct. But it's not the force or the coercion or the beating that
but
we saw
this
with
is a
Cassie.
Different type of coercion. This is a mental one, a financial one, different than Cassie.
We'll get to the finances because by accounts, she might have been a millionaire if you're following certain people. But the force there, she kept saying when asked that ultimate question by the government, but why did you do it? She didn't have the Cassie answer of like, oh, he was going to beat me upside the head.
Not yet.
I wanted to make him happy. He felt bad. It wasn't the force there. It was she wanted to do it.
Yeah. As of now, I think they're going with, remember, she just got on a stand yesterday. She was on a stand all day today. So I think they're dealing with the coercion part. But remember from opening statement, there is at least one time where there was violence. And I think that's where they'll get to on Monday.
Well, okay, this witness is expected to stay on the stand through next week, right? That's a real long time.
Well, because she's a main witness. She's a main witness. You got to think
she brings a lot.
The indictment, well, victim number 2, but she's part of 2 of the charges specifically will apply to her. So that's why she'll be on the stand long. And the cross-examination is going to be extensive.
She was a part of the superseding indictment. She was not one of the original alleged victims in this case. And I think they might have had a stronger case with Cassie and...
She was love bomb. She was love bomb.
$1,000 a month place for her and her son, which she could not afford, and constantly reminded her, hey, I'm paying for that roof over your head, so let's do these freak-offs.
She was definitely love
paying
bombed.
her to be ready to do a freak-off whenever he wanted. We should stop thinking of Cassie and Jane as his former girlfriends. They were not. They were possessions. They were his live-in S-workers, or perhaps even living sex dolls. Jane also said he is still paying her rent to this day. I imagine that'll stop after her testimony. Over and over, Jane talks about telling Diddy she does not want to do these hotel nights, which is what they called the freak-offs. But he keeps pressing her on doing it. He keeps asking her. He keeps reminding her, hey, I paid for that roof over your head. I paid for your smile, because he got her veneers. In these hotel nights, she's usually with 3 men, one after the other, while Diddy plies her with ecstasy. And she's doing this anywhere from 12 hours to 3.5 days straight. Sometimes they had movie nights where they watched the tapes of their own freak-offs. With weekly hotel nights, Jane got UTIs and infections every week. She said she got sore all the time, but she didn't stop, and she doesn't know why. At some point, Jane started to become more active in choosing who the S workers would be. Is this because she liked it? No, because she wanted some level of control. If we're going to do this, at least let me control who's on my body. At one point, she texts Diddy, I'm so much more than being left in the dark in hotel rooms. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. It's dark, sleazy, and it makes me feel disgusted. I don't want to play this role out of fear of losing the roof over my head. Oh. She sends him that deep message, and his response? Girl, stop. She told him she had gotten her monthly and couldn't do a hotel night, and she had to send him a picture proving that she was on her even still, he's like, you're acting weird as fuck.
Like that's gonna stop some shit.
She has another full day of questions from the prosecution on Monday. I don't see how Diddy survives a second freak-off victim. Jane's horrific testimony
y'all today. So right there, let me say this. Chance. You remember with Banner, and they were saying, how can you be in one, how can Diddy be in one hotel, one location? Can he be in multiple? Yeah, because she was in one of those spots, sitting, waiting on him while he was off with somebody else. So yes, the same credit card, Jane, Frank Black, she was in one ordering breakfast and food service and maid service and all that shit while he was at another location. Yeah, there you go, right there. She was sitting there waiting in the dark. These are, oh Lord, heaven knows, I don't want to have to agree with pressure. But it's getting close. Let's go.
And this, I think, is a witness that they went a little bit too far in the reaching, because I don't think this helps, especially when you think of the order. Cassie, bombastic, huge, violence. Yes, that's horrible. And then we started to peter off. The last witness we were talking about was Brianna Bongalon. And now we're talking about Jane. It seems like they're not reaching a crescendo as we're getting closer to the end. It kind of seems like it's petering off, and that's not good for a prosecution's case.
That's how you look at it.
Evidence in this case, because they showed audio recordings. We heard those in the court today. Text messages, photos of Jane with these men during these hotel nights. Is that a problem when you start to see all that?
Her explanation of the text messages, I think, is going to be difficult for her, because she is saying one thing, doing one thing, and then rightfully explaining to the jury, well, I was doing this, but this was in my mind. So if you're looking from the other side, and Sean Combs is messaging...
But it's a pattern. All of them have done that.
Pressuring her to do the freak-offs. Oh, girl, you fooling. You joking around. Something to that extent. That's not a person who seems aggressive or mad. It seems like a person who thinks, wait, you just seem like you're playing this off.
Yeah, but what's important is what she says. So, and
what's important is what she's conveying and what his intent is.
Yes, but what you're seeing and what you're saying and reading, I mean, what the jury's going to focus on is, okay, what do I have that's tangible evidence? And I'm not even going to think about what you're saying on the stand. What do I have from back then when it actually happened? Because that's the same thing that they're doing with Cassie and the other witnesses. And if you have text messages and notes and stuff that says, I don't want to engage in these hotel nights, then she's conveying that she doesn't want to.
How many times did she say that?
All it takes is one.
Flirting, it's like 20-1, and you can see from his response.
But all you need is one.
All you need is one.
But if you're having a
let's put it 2 times. Just 2 hotel nights, and then you got it. Okay, so
all you need is one.
Looking ahead, who do we expect to see the prosecution call after this witness?
Not Christina Coram, not D-Rock, not people who should be in the inner circle.
I think, first off, I think Monday is still going to be a big day, just because we know from the opening statement what else the prosecutor has to get out of Jane. So we're talking about recording, so we'll get to see that. I wouldn't be surprised if the prosecutor calls maybe 1 or 2 of those escorts like they did with Cassie in order to corroborate these hotel nights.
The ones that she hired herself because she felt more comfortable with those, or the ones that Sean forced her?
All they need is 1 or 2. All they need is
because whether she did it or not, Diddy, the corporation pays for it, reimburse them.
You don't do that if you have those people coming in to testify. So that's why.
Sir, I know that you're doing a mock for the defense, but remember, she did reach out to them. She paid for it, and she was reimbursed by the enterprise. She was reimbursed because it is a business. And somewhere in this equation, he told her, girl, stop tripping and get back to work. Work. This is a job. You got a job to do. Work. Yeah, that $10,000, I'm paying you $10,000 a month to work. So that's why you getting 3, and you got a son. Yeah. And your baby daddy, you know, I don't like, yeah. And he ran every time he run my name, I'm going to add another man in here, and we going to run a train on you. That's luck, baby.
All right, we'll have to leave it there today. Thank you both for being with us. Coming up, our cameras take you inside a courtroom identical to the one Sean Combs is sitting in every day of this trial. And we're joined by a former judge who knows a thing or two about presiding over high-profile cases.
They play too much. Yeah, they play too much. They play too much. Now the power of veneers. Ah!
This is the evolution of carrying the Ridge wallet. Let's see how it redefines your essentials. Elegantly minimal, incredibly...
You know, the internet is undefeated. You hear me?
Welcome back to Burden of Proof, the case against Diddy. The full media circus is out covering this trial, from every network news organization to countless vloggers to curious people just getting in line to see it for themselves. So you may be wondering, what is it like to be the judge presiding over such a high-profile case? Well, my next guest is no stranger to such cases.
Y'all, I need 20 likes.
Trials, including Mafia boss John Gotti and the landmark stop and frisk case. Joining me now is former U.S. District Judge for the Southern District of New York, Shira Shenlin. Thank you so much for being here with us. So just to start, when you are the judge over such a high-profile case, what are the challenges that you face?
There's a lot of challenges. First of all, you know that the eyes of the world are on you and on the story. So you don't want to say anything out of turn. You don't want to make a joke. You don't want to speak with a mistake here or there. You want to get everything just right. In most cases, there's nobody in your courtroom. And so no mistake matters. But in a big, high-profile case, you're very conscious of the attention. So that's one thing you're thinking about. You're also thinking about the jury and how they need to be protected from, with all due respect, the media. What they can't do is go home and read print media. They can't go on the computer and Google. They can't go on social media and write each other. That would be wrong. And they're told that every day from the beginning, from when they were first selected, then the first instructions, and then every day, at least with me, I started the day and ended the day reminding them, you may not do any research on your own. Don't try to find out. Don't listen to any media. Don't read any media. That's your job. Everything you need to know is in the courtroom. And that's very hard to enforce.
Yeah, because you think we're always on our phones, right? There's been a lot of emotional, a lot of graphic testimony. 2 of the witnesses have used pseudonyms. We heard a lawyer for the Jane who was on the stand today raising concern because on social media, her name was being floated out there. How do you make sure that these witnesses are protected?
You know, maybe I don't know something, but I don't think this is a dangerous kind of guy. Like a couple of the cases I had, you mentioned I tried John Gotti Jr., I tried the big arms dealer, Victor Boot. When you have cases like that, there's a real fear that there's potential violence. Somehow I don't think that about this guy. I could be wrong,
but
I don't think anybody's going to follow the jury.
You're wrong.
Some juries are semi-sequestered. Mine were, where they were taken to a drop-off point, so nobody could follow them, nobody could question them. But I think the judge must have thought all this through. They are anonymous. Nobody knows their names.
She don't know Diddy.
So nobody's going to reach out to them.
Girl,
I
please.
think they're safe.
All right. What can you tell us about the judge that's handling this trial, how he runs his courtroom?
I don't know that because he's a fairly new judge. There are judges in that court who've been on the bench 35 years, and there are judges on that bench who've been a judge 1 year or 2 years. I think he falls in the latter category. So he probably has not tried a lot of criminal cases as a judge. And I don't think he was pretty much a civil lawyer at a very good firm. So I think he tried civil cases. So, it's high pressure for him. I bet he's talking to other judges and getting a little help and advice.
I think he's doing good
to decide. That's okay to do with other judges.
We saw him yesterday really, put Combs in his place and say, you can't be shaking your head like that at the jury. I heard that. You do that again.
He done charmed her too, huh?
His courtroom. Were you surprised to hear that?
I am, because a defendant in a criminal case has a right to be present at every stage of the proceeding, has a constitutional right to confront his accusers. So it's very important that he be in the courtroom. Now, if somebody truly misbehaves, like shouting and screaming and jumping up, they can be taken out of the courtroom and watched on video on a TV screen, but that's not the preferable way. So I understand he was making hand gestures as well as faces, and she could threaten him with being handcuffed behind his back where the jury wouldn't see, but then he couldn't wave his hands around, but he could still make faces. But I think I'm sure the judge has now put the fear of God into him, and hopefully he won't do it again.
And we were able to get some video of a courtroom that's identical to the one that this trial is playing out, and we want to show people. What can you tell us about the room where this is all happening?
It's a big courtroom. There's plenty of room for the public to get in, but there's usually overflow rooms. So if it's full from media or just citizens who want to watch, there's a second room nearby that they can watch on a video screen.
If I was your, I would come home and be like, baby, you're not going to believe this shit.
If they're side by side, I'm trying to see here, then the prosecution table is nearer to the jury, and the defense table is further from the jury. If you're front to back, the prosecution table is in front, and the defense table is behind
Julietta,
it. So I can't see on your screen where the tables are, but always the prosecution is closer to the jury and closer to the judge.
Y'all, I got 20% left. If y'all think I'm going to sit here and hold this with my battery bank and y'all don't get my likes up or support the platform, y'all know I'm going to just end it, right?
Weekdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.
I know y'all know that.
Make sure to follow our podcast, Bad Rap, the case against Diddy, hosted by our very own Brian Buckmeyer.
How many sketches have you done? That's a sketch right there. Wow. How's Puff looking there? Thank you.
The sketch artist.
All right. How hard is it to sketch? It's fun? How many sketches have you done so far? That's a sketch right there. Wow. How's Puff looking there? Thank you.
Hold on, I'm trying to...
All right.
She said, has he died?
How hard is it to sketch? It's fun?
Ooh, Lord, I'm out of juice over here too.
How many sketches have you done so far? That's a sketch right there. Wow. How's Puff looking there?
Okay, y'all, hold on. I was trying to... Hold on. Come on, Puff didn't do that. Girl, shut up.
That proved their case beyond the reason.
Come on, Puff didn't prove that. Didn't do that. Girl. Oh, yeah, if I unplug that one over there, it's going to go dead. Dead on TV. Dead.
What would you say to men who think therapy is a sign of weakness?
When you have a proven plan for...
The judge issued a stern warning for him to stop. Your membership is more than just a card.
Get the lights up. I'm trying to show AunTeaFee how these women... Yeah, because boo, look, the bad...
Brianna clarified, however, that she never really was certain of the exact date.
Hold on.
To attempt to back up her claims, prosecutors introduced a September 30th, 2016 text exchange between Cassie Ventura and Christina Coram, Combs' former chief of staff. In the message, Cassie described a similar incident writing, "He came into my house while my friends were here and we
lights.
were all sleeping. They woke me up because he was ringing the bell crazy at 3 a.m. Prosecutors argued that this message aligns with Breonna's account and supports the credibility of her testimony. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland questioned whether Breonna's memories were influenced by emotion or hearsay or even money rather than concrete, verifiable facts. She highlighted the lack of direct evidence tying Combs to the alleged assault on her, trying to frame her testimony as subjective. She was also questioned about the delay in coming forward. They questioned Breonna waiting years to speak out, using the delay to suggest her story may have been influenced by recent lawsuits or media coverage rather than rooted in consistent and timely report of events. Now, one of the biggest events from yesterday is when Judge Subramanian reprimanded Sean Combs through his attorney Agnifilo after noticing that Combs was shaking his head during Breonna Bongolan's testimony. The judge issued a stern warning for him to stop, making it clear that any visible reactions to witness testimony, such as head shaking or gestures, would not be tolerated in the courtroom. Subramanian reminded Agnifilo that the jury could see Combs and that such behavior could be considered an attempt to influence or intimidate witnesses, whether intentional or not. The warning served as a reminder that all parties, especially the defendant, must maintain courtroom decorum. In other words, the judge told him,
"Sit your $5 ass down
before I make it."
You need to shut up. That's what I do if I had no armor. I would shut the.
Now, the court also heard from Enrique Santos, who is a digital forensic analyst. Santos testified that he extracted data from 3 iPhones belonging to Cassie Ventura. He explained that investigators were able to recover numerous deleted records from the devices, including text and call logs. Santos noted that some recovered messages were missing contact names or contained strange characters, which can occur during data corruption or deletion. He also clarified that the date of a screenshot does not necessarily reflect when the actual message exchange took place. After delivering this technical
everything is about their
Santos was dismissed from the stand.
It is some. Well, I don't know. To some,
only known as Jane.
I guess if they
MEMPHIS in 2020 when he was dating her then friend. She said that she quickly became consumed by Sean, and then he started freak-offs, which they called instead hotel nights or debauchery. And despite what she testified were repeated comments about not wanting to do so, she said she was coerced into having SEX with escorts about 90% of the time that she saw him. She says, "My feelings of obligation really started to stem from the fact that my partner was paying my rent." She told the jurors after explaining he was paying her close to $10,000 a month for a rental home and would often threaten to stop sending her the funds. Now, you may not know it, but Jane was part of the reason why Diddy was unable to get bail. During the initial bail hearing, the government alluded to a potential second victim, arguing that Combs' contact with this purported victim were evidence of obstruction. According to the prosecution, after Diddy's home was raided, he contacted this victim and he was like, "Look, we're friends. Those nights that we had, you actually liked it, right? I didn't force you to do anything. You want to keep this rent thing going, right?" And he also contacted his accountant and told his accountant, "Don't do anything stupid. Make sure you continue to pay her rent." Diddy's team said that despite the government's claim, this woman was not a victim of trafficking, and the defense had learned that the government at the time had not even spoken to her, nor was she the target of any obstructive conduct by Combs. However, sis turned, but now she is sitting on the stand testifying against the man that we all know as Sean P. Diddy Combs. We are going to get into trial day number 18 and so much more, but before we do, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any news regarding this case and so much more. Now let's get back into it. So just a little housekeeping, there was a document uploaded last night, and it's a court order addressing Diddy's complaint that he can't make phone calls from the jail to speak with his legal team. Now, even though he's allowed 300 minutes a month, the defense says that he hasn't been able to use them. Now, the judge ordered the jail to investigate whether a technical issue is blocking Diddy's calls and to report back to him on June 6, 2025 to let him know what's going on. So before the jury is brought in, the judge says, "What about the screenshots of the text between Ms. Ventura and Ms. Coram?" Alexandra Shapiro says only the text should be admitted, not the photo. Prosecution says the jurors should know it's a screenshot, not a text. Prosecution says, "My error, I only looked at the first message. I apologize." Judge says you may like screenshots as opposed to text. Prosecution says,
when Google Fiber launched 1 gig internet, some people said,
what would you even do with that much speed?
Then our customers did a whole lot. So we launched 2 gig.
I don't even have to think about it.
And then 5 gig.
I have no worry.
I'm up here pushing it like I'm on the laptop.
Judge says, I'm not done. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Judge. Judge says, I understand. I'm just not sure this is the hill you want to DIE on. Combs' attorney Driscoll says, these texts, you have thousands of videos of me performing every weekend on your phone. They are backwards looking and hearsay. We argue that Mr. Combs was upfront about the non-monogamous nature of the relationship, as Jane said. Prosecutor says in their opening, they attacked Jane's credibility, called it all consensual. As you heard yesterday, Jane felt coerced.
You know the
they
donut.
opened the door. Judge says they are admissible to rebut.
That's
the
oblong.
opening, so it's appropriate
with the jelly,
to introduce those statements. Diddy's attorney Driscoll
jelly
said the government sent us 6 years of text messages. Then they somewhat reduced them. We stand by our objections.
It's oblong.
The foundations have not been laid. Judge says the government should lay the foundation. Prosecutor Johnson says, we have laid it. Judge says, bring in the jury and the witness. Prosecutor Comey says, good morning. How many times did you travel to Las Vegas? Once on Sean's plane, he was hosting an event. Then he wanted entertainment for the night. We had that. What do you mean? An entertainer. We had S3X. What did going off the grid mean? Getting free?
I had to go off the grid in order to really lock in.
Did Sean call you a freak? Yes, he wanted me to be wild and sexual. Did you ask Sean if entertainers could wear rubbers? Yes, the first time with Don and another, Sean guilty tripped me out of it. It's not something he wanted to see. What was his tone? Condescending? Did he say why he did not want to see the entertainers wear a rubber? He did not want to see a rubber. Did you raise it ever when sober and not in a hotel room? Yes. Was this ever recorded? Yes. One that I am not aware of. I'm trying to ask the entertainer if he could wear a rubber. He's looking for it. Prosecutor Comey said, I'd like to call up this exhibit with an aide. Did you listen to this? Yes. And did you read the transcript that's up on the screen? Yes. The screen is not visible to the gallery. The audio is being played, and it's very scratchy. Okay, so let's start at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. When you said, I think they're in a chair, what were you referring to? The rubbers. And what did you understand what Sean meant when he said, you're just going to take the DICK? That we had just had intercourse. And when he said, if you don't touch yourself right now, what was he saying? To just move on. Why did you think you needed permission from Sean for the man having S3X with your body? Wear a rubber. Objection. Overruled. Prosecution asked for sidebar. Judge says sure. Now, while they're on a sidebar, I want to reference the fact that in 2023, Jane sent a message to Combs saying, I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights for you. Ever since I opened up Pandora's box, I've never been able to close it. I feel it's the only reason you have me around and why you pay for my house. I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights. Combs responded, girl, stop. So now they're back from sidebar. And Comey said, why did you not just say no? He'd get agitated. How would intercourse with an entertainer end? He'd finish on me. Then what with Sean? We'd have S3X. Would you clean up after the entertainer let off? No. Why not? Sean liked it. Play around with it. You're nasty. Then what? I'd take a shower and get ready for the next one. Typically,
wow. Did y'all hear that nasty stuff?
Oh, so now they're back from sidebar. Objection. Overruled. Prosecution asked, the screen is not visible to the gallery. The audio is being played, and it's very scratchy. Okay, so let's start at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. When you said, I think they're in a chair, what were you referring to? The rubbers. And what did you understand what Sean meant when he said, you're just going to take the DICK? That we had just had intercourse. And when he said, if you don't touch yourself right now, what was he saying? To just move on. Why did you think you needed permission from Sean for the man having S3X with your body? Wear a rubber. Objection. Overruled. Prosecution asked for sidebar. Judge says sure. Now, while they're on a sidebar, I want to reference the fact that in 2023, Jane sent a message to Combs saying, I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights for you. Ever since I opened up Pandora's box, I've never been able to close it. I feel it's the only reason you have me around and why you pay for my house. I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights. Combs responded, girl, stop. So now they're back from sidebar. And Comey said, why did you not just say no? He'd get agitated. How would intercourse with an entertainer end? He'd finish on me. Then what with Sean? We'd have SEX. Would you clean up after the entertainer let off? No. Why not? Sean liked it. Play around with it. Get nasty. Then what? I'd take a shower and get ready for the next one. Typically, how many rounds? Objection. Overruled.
Like
Every
this,
entertainer
Pressure.
was different. Some 3. Who would
Did you
decide
see
if you could stop when you were tired? Sean. She starts to cry. Do you need a moment? She cries. I'm sorry. What was your question? How do you say you wanted to stop? I'd say like, I'm hungry. Make little faces. I send him subtle cues. What would he say? He'd say, you're not getting tired on me, are you? Let's go out on a high note. Let's finish strong. She continues to cry. What would Sean give you to keep you awake and having SEX with the entertainers? Ecstasy. Did you ever cry after one of the hotel nights? Twice. Tell us about the
Pressure
first.
like these donuts, like that. They got jelly on the inside,
but just a
like strawberry jelly.
Onto that, but 18 hours, and after 18 hours and 3
That's
rounds,
jelly roll.
Entertainer, ecstasy. Did you ever cry after one of the hotel nights? Twice. Tell us about the first. I thought it was a date night, one-on-one, but he said there would be an entertainer, but just a quick one. I hung onto that, but 18 hours? And after 18 hours and 3 rounds with the entertainer, Sean said he had to leave. I started crying. I had just gone through all of that, and I was feeling terrible that he was going to leave me all alone. Were you with someone else? I was with Sean. It was in the Waldorf in Beverly Hills, early in the relationship. What did Sean say? Are you crying? Like looking disgusted. Then he sat there and listened to music, and he smoked. I was just clinging to him. He said he could move things around with him and his family, and I could go home with him. I just wanted to be in his arms after all that. Okay, Jane, and the second time,
Oh, wow.
I was in the shower after one of the nights, and is your memory spotty? What do you remember? I was so high. I was having SEX with Paul. Then I was in the shower with Sean, and I just started crying. I couldn't stop. He said, stop it. Don't do this right now. Stop. I'm too high. Paul? One of the entertainers who did most of the work during the hotel nights. Me. Her voice starts cracking. Were the hotel nights work for you? Objection.
Yes.
Overruled. It was work from start to finish. What did you do to try to get
She's
them
a
to
worker.
I try to have SEX with the entertainers fast. What did you do to try to speed things up? I do foreplay and bring them into the room. Sean would say, slow it down, more foreplay. What words did he use? Time frame. Okay, so May 2021 to October 2023, what did Sean say? He would say, I'm not ready to see that yet. How did you feel? Sidebar. Sure, says the judge. Okay, so now they're back from sidebar. How did you feel? I'd want to be with Sean at the end. Where would you go? To his residence. Was there any part of these hotel nights that you enjoyed? Being with Sean. Jane testified that after the hotel nights, she and Sean P. Diddy Combs would typically go back to his house together. Jane said she would make sure Combs was showered, and then she would cook for him, massage him, and put on one of his favorite shows. Then I would finally get to cuddle with him and sleep with him, she said, while choking up on the sand. She said she would feel really happy at the end of the night that she was with Sean, but I would really fight to block out just how sad I felt after. What would you text him? To say I love you? Did you text that you wanted to have SEX? Yes, with him. Did you text him that you wanted to have SEX with others? Yes, it was his fantasy. Did he tell you what to text? Yes, he asked, what do you want? Be explicit. Why did you write these things? I wanted to make my lover happy. Look at this one from November 9, 2021. What did you write? I wrote, I'm horny for you. You don't have to read this, but you write, I want to SUCK, pause, DICK.
Same thing he did with Cassie.
Why did you write that? I knew it would turn Sean on.
Same thing he did with Cassie.
An entertainer. You text him you wanted to stop having hotel nights? Yes. What did you write here? I'm so much more than being left in a dark hotel room. My heart is breaking. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. I feel it's the only reason you pay for the house. We need to talk like adults. How long had Sean been paying your rent? 5 months or so. Did you see DRUGS in the hotel room? Objection. Overruled. Ecstasy, Molly, cocaine, pink powder, which I think is called Tucci. Who gave them to you? Sean. Did you ever see any of the entertainers taking DRUGS? No. That was my one rule. I told them they couldn't take any DRUGS. I didn't want them to be out of control while they were with me. How did ecstasy make you feel? Sexual energy. Why did you feel you had to take the DRUGS? Otherwise, it would be too real. I wanted to, I don't know, feels like she sobs. It would make things easier. Did you ever do hotel nights without DRUGS? Twice, once with Paul. Why didn't you take DRUGS that time? I didn't want to do that to my body, but it just felt too real, so I asked Sean for a pill. Did Sean give it to you? Yes, I felt better. The second time, my partner was taking too many pills. He said, I'll do 30 days without DRUGS, but let's just do one last sobriety party for the Lamartage. How long did it last? Too long, 18 hours. What happened? The first guy, the second guy, I was not feeling well. I threw up. I told Sean I'd just thrown up. What did he say? He said, that's good. Now you're ready for the third guy. He's here. Damn.
No. She wasn't ready. She wasn't ready.
How did you feel? I was just disgusted. I was just repulsed. I was just too mad at myself. Jane said, I was mad that I let myself get into this. Comey asked, this would be a good time for a break. Judge says, I agree. They go on break. During the break, Combs is having these animated conversations with Ignipolo, Shapiro, and Steele, talking with his hands. All right, now they're back from break, and they bring Jane back in. All rise. Comey said, did Sean ever run out of DRUGS during a hotel night? Yes. What happened? He would call one of his assistants or butlers to bring more DRUGS. Sometimes his security. What assistants? Brendan, Frank, John, and I'm sure you all remember Brandon Paul because in March 2024, Paul was arrested at a Miami airport while trying to board a private jet with Combs, and authorities claimed that he had cocaine and marijuana-laced candy on him.
As we live in a digital-first world, so much of our collaboration is digital. For us, high-speed internet allows people to have a very clear picture of us and a very clear video, which is important to our brand. That's why we have Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet, starting at $30 a month.
Him. Now, he was labeled by some as Diddy's alleged DRUG mule based on addressing Diddy's complaint that he can't make phone calls.
This is the same thing that guy
was
said.
Ringing the bell crazy at 3 a.m. during Breonna Santos, who is a digital forensic analyst. Santos testified in an attempt to influence or intimidate witnesses, whether...
I had to step away, y'all, so I don't know where to stop.
However, that she never really was certain of the exact date. To attempt to back up her claim, often threatened to stop sending her the funds. Now, you may not know it, but Jane was part of the reason why Diddy was unable to get bail. During the initial bail, it's about not wanting to do so. She said she was coerced into having S3X with escorts about 90% of the time that she saw him. She says, my feelings of obligation really started to stem from the fact that my partner was paying my rent.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get this situated.
Told the jurors after explaining he was paying her close to $10,000 a month for a rental home and would often threaten to stop sending her the funds. Now, you may not know it, but Jane was part of the reason why Diddy was unable to get bail. During the initial bail hearing, the government alluded to a potential second victim, arguing that Combs' contact with this purported victim were evidence of obstruction. According to the prosecution,
While he was in
after
jail.
Diddy's home was raided, he contacted this victim and he was like, look, we're friends. Those nights that we had, you actually liked it, right? I didn't force you to do anything. You want to keep this rent thing going, right? And he also contacted
y'all hear that?
Told his accountant, don't do anything stupid or the funds. Now, you may not know it, but Jane was part of the reason why Diddy was unable to get bail. During the initial bail hearing, the government alluded to a potential second victim, arguing that Combs' contact with this purported victim were evidence of obstruction. According to the prosecution, after Diddy's home was raided, he contacted this victim and he was like, look, we're friends. Those nights that we had, you actually liked it, right? I didn't force you to do anything. You want to keep this rent thing going, right? And he also contacted his accountant.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute, Pressure.
Don't do anything stupid.
Pressure, you still here? That made the phone fall over. Y'all hear that? Oh, wow. So while he was locked up in jail, he was coercing her.
Nights that we had, you actually liked it, right?
Right.
I didn't force you to do anything.
Right. Oh, so even right there, you saying you knowing that you forced you. Whoa, wait. Who at Christine? You asked me was she a good witness for the prosecution? Yes. Oh yeah. Can y'all hear this? Now you telling her what to say, right? You still want your rent paid, right? That's why the rent is still being paid. So that she can go in and say, I didn't force you. So you know you forcing people.
Look, we're friends. Those nights that we had, you actually liked it, right?
So I ain't your girlfriend. Now I'm your friend. Are y'all listening to this? Coercion.
But this purported victim were evidence of obstruction. According to the prosecution, after Diddy's home was raided, he contacted this victim and he was like, look, we're friends. Those nights that we had, you actually liked it, right? I didn't force you to do anything. You want to keep this rent thing going, right? And he also contacted his
You wanted to keep this contract going, right?
Don't do anything stupid. Make sure you continue to pay her rent. Diddy's team said that despite the government's claim, this woman was not a victim of trafficking, and the defense...
Am I the only one hearing this, or y'all don't want to hear it? Am I still... Oh, maybe can y'all still hear me? I made them went off the grid.
That the government at the time had not even spoken.
Hello? Can y'all still hear me? I must be spinning. Cause baby, that tea right there was good. Oh my. Am I spinning? Can y'all hear me? Oh, there it go right there. He said, okay now, we friends. Why do they have to be friends? Why? Because they got a contract, and then he tell his accounting team, don't do nothing stupid. Keep paying her all long. Oh, wow. That's heavy, y'all. I caught that with my good ear. Let's go back.
Look, we're friends. Those nights that we had, you actually liked it, right? I didn't force you to do it. For a rental home and without the
you actually liked it.
She testified were repeated comments about not wanting to do so. She said she was coerced into having S3X with escorts about 90% of the time that she saw him. She says, my feelings of obligation really started to stem from the fact that my partner was paying my rent. She told the jurors after explaining he was paying her close to $10,000 a month for a rental home and would often threaten to stop sending her the funds.
And it ain't even her house. It's a rental.
Diddy was unable to get bail. During the initial bail hearing, the government alluded to a potential second victim, arguing that Combs' contact with this purported victim were evidence of obstruction. According to the prosecution, after Diddy's home was raided, he contacted this victim and he was like, look, we're friends. Those nights that we had, you actually liked it, right? I didn't force you to do anything. You want to keep this rent thing going, right? And he also contacted his accountant and told his accountant, don't do anything stupid. Make sure you continue to pay her rent. Diddy's team said that despite the government's claim, this woman was not a victim of trafficking, and the defense had learned that the government at the time had not even spoken to her, nor was she the target of any obstructive conduct by Combs. However, sis turned, but now she is sitting on the stand testifying against the man that we all know as Sean P. Diddy Combs. We're going to get into trial day number 18 and so much more, but before we do,
50 needs to make sure her rent is paid.
Channel and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any news regarding this case and so much more. Now let's get back into it. So just a little housekeeping, there was a document uploaded last night, and it's a court order addressing Diddy's complaint that he can't make phone calls from the jail to speak with his legal team. Now, even though he's allowed 300 minutes a month, the defense says that he hasn't been able to use them. Now, the judge ordered the jail to investigate whether a technical issue is blocking Diddy's calls and to report back to him on June 6, 2025 to let him know what's going on. So before the jury is brought in, the judge says, what about the screenshots of the text between Ms. Ventura and Ms. Coram? Alexandra Shapiro says only the text should be admitted, not the photo. Prosecution says the jurors should know it's a screenshot, not a text. Prosecution says, my error, I only looked at the first message. I apologize. Judge says you may like screenshots as opposed to text. Prosecution says we. Judge says I'm not done. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Judge. Judge says I understand. I'm just not sure this is the hill you want to DIE on. Combs' attorney Driscoll says these texts, you have thousands of videos of me performing every weekend on your phone. They are backwards looking and hearsay. We argue that Mr. Combs was upfront about the non-monogamous nature of the relationship, as Jane said. Prosecutor says in their opening, they attacked Jane's credibility, called it all consensual. As you heard yesterday, Jane felt coerced. They have opened the door. Judge says they are admissible to rebut the defense's opening, so it's appropriate to introduce those statements. Diddy's attorney Driscoll said the government sent us 6 years of text messages, then they somewhat reduced them. We stand by our objections. The foundations have not been laid. Judge says the government should lay the foundation. Prosecutor Johnson says, we have laid it. Judge says, bring in the jury and the witness. Prosecutor Comey says, good morning. How many times did you travel to Las Vegas? Once on Sean's plane. He was hosting an event. Then he wanted entertainment for the night. We had that. What do you mean? An entertainer. We had S3X. What did going off the grid mean? Getting free?
I had to go off the grid in order to really lock in.
Did Sean call you a freak? Yes, he wanted me to be wild.
So he had to go off the
grid.
grid.
Did you ask Sean if entertainers could wear
he can't
rubbers?
perform without.
Yes, the first time with Don and another, Sean guilty tripped me out of it. It's not something he wanted to see. What was his tone? Condescending? Did he say why he did not want to see the entertainers wear a rubber? He did not want to see a rubber. Did you raise it ever when sober and not in a hotel room? Yes. Was this ever recorded? Yes. One that I am not aware of. I'm trying to ask the entertainer if he could wear rubber. He's looking for it. Prosecutor Comey said, I'd like to call up this exhibit with an aid. Did you listen to this? Yes. And did you read the transcript that's up on the screen? Yes. The screen is not visible to the gallery.
Can y'all still hear? I gotta get some more juice.
Okay, so let's start at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. When you said, I think they're in a chair, what were you referring to? The rubbers. And what did you understand what Sean meant when he said, you're just going to take the DICK? That we had just had intercourse. And when he said, if you don't touch yourself right now, what was he saying? To just move on. Why did you think you needed permission from Sean for the man having S3X with your body? Wear a rubber.
Yeah, he wanted to see it. I think I accidentally deleted your message, Christine, but I could see it. Yeah, he wanted that, D.
The fact that in 2023, Jane sent a message to Combs saying, I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights for you. Ever since I opened up Pandora's box, I've never been able to close it.
My bad.
I feel it's the only reason you have me around and why you paid for my house.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights. Combs responded, girl, stop. So now they're back from sidebar. And Comey said, why did you not just say no? He'd get agitated. How would intercourse with an entertainer end? He'd finish on me. Then what with Sean? We'd have S3X.
About 22 days ago, I started using the Japanese Manjaro recipe, but I had to stop because I was losing weight way too fast. Just look at how slim my face is now. No fluff. Let's get
Would you clean up after the entertainer let off? No. Why not? Sean liked it. Play around with it.
Wow.
Then what? I take a shower and get ready for the next one. Typically, how many rounds? Objection. Overruled. Every entertainer was different. Some 3. Who would decide if you could stop when you were tired? Sean. She starts to cry. Do you need a moment? She cries.
Dang.
I'm sorry. What was your question? How do you say you wanted to stop? I'd say like, I'm hungry. Make little faces. I send him subtle cues. What would he say? He'd say, you're not getting tired on me, are you? Let's go out on a high note. Let's finish strong. She continues to cry.
Like he a coach.
To keep you awake and having S3X with the entertainers. Ecstasy. Did you ever cry after one of the hotel nights?
Let's go out on a high note.
Tell us about the first. I thought it was a date night, one-on-one, but he said there would be an entertainer, but just a quick one. I hung on to that, but 18 hours? And after 18 hours and 3 rounds with the entertainer, Sean said he had to leave. I started crying. I had just gone through all of that, and I was feeling terrible that he was going to leave me all alone. Were you with someone else? I was with Sean. It was in the Waldorf in Beverly Hills, early in the relationship. What did Sean say? Are you crying? Like looking disgusted. Then he sat there and listened to music, and he smoked. I was just clinging to him. He said he could move things around with him and his family, and I could go home with him. I just wanted to be in his arms after all that. Okay, Jane, and the second time, I was in the shower after one of the nights, and is your memory spotty? What do you remember? I was so high. I was having SEX with Paul. Then I was in the shower with Sean, and I just started crying. I couldn't stop. He said, stop it. Don't do this right now. Stop. I'm too high. Paul? One of the entertainers who did most of the work during the hotel nights. Me. Her voice starts cracking. Were the hotel nights work for you? Objection. Overruled. It was work from start to finish. What did you do to try to get them to
no
end
food,
sooner?
no
I
nothing.
try to have SEX with the entertainers fast. What did you do to try to speed things up? I do foreplay and bring them into the room. Sean was saying,
I must have
slow
went
it
back
down,
too far,
more
y'all.
foreplay.
I'm sorry.
What words did he use? Time frame. Okay, so May 2021 to October 2023, what did Sean say? He would say, I'm not ready to see that yet. How did you feel? Sidebar. Sure, says the judge. Okay, so now they're back from sidebar. How did you feel? I'd want to be with Sean at the end. Where would you go? To his residence. Was there any part of these hotel nights that you enjoyed? Being with Sean? Jane testified that after the hotel nights, she and Sean P. Diddy Combs would typically go back to his house together. Jane said she would make sure Combs was showered, and then she would cook for him, massage him, and put on one of his favorite shows. Then I would finally get to cuddle with him and sleep with him, she said, while choking up on the stand. She said she would feel really happy at the end of the night that she was with Sean, but I would really fight to block out just how sad I felt after. What would you text him? To say I love you? Did you text that you wanted to have SEX? Yes, with him. Did you text him that you wanted to have SEX with others? Yes, it was his fantasy. Did he tell you what to text? Yes, he asked, what do you want? Be explicit. Why did you write these things? I wanted to make my lover happy. Look at this one from November 9th, 2021.
He wasn't your lover, though.
What did you write? I wrote, I'm horny for you. You don't have to read this, but you write, I want to SUCK, pause, DICK. Oh, my God.
My
Why
God,
did you
my
write that?
God.
I knew it would turn Sean on. Who is Paul? An entertainer. You text him you wanted to stop having hotel nights? Yes. What did you write here? I'm so much more than being left in a dark hotel room. My heart is breaking. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. I feel it's the only reason you pay for the house. We need to talk like adults. How long had Sean been paying your rent? 5 months or so. Did you see DRUGS in the hotel rooms? Objection. Overruled. Ecstasy, Molly, cocaine, pink powder, which I think is called Tucci. Who gave them to you? Sean. Did you ever see any of the entertainers taking DRUGS? No. That was my one rule. I told them they couldn't take any DRUGS. I didn't want them to be out of control while they were with me. How did ecstasy make you feel? Sexual energy. Why did you feel you had to take the DRUGS? Otherwise, it would be too real. I wanted to, I don't know, feels like she sobs. It would make things easier. Did you ever do hotel nights without DRUGS? Twice, once with Paul. Why didn't you take DRUGS that time?
I went back
didn't
too
want to do
far.
that to my
But here it
body, but
comes.
it just felt too real. So I asked Sean for a pill. Did Sean give it to you? Yes, I felt better. The second
Drugs,
time, my partner was
coercion.
taking too many pills. He said, I'll do 30 days without DRUGS, but let's just do one last sobriety party for the Lamartage. How long did it last? Too long, 18 hours. What happened? The first guy, the second guy, I was not feeling well. I threw up. I told Sean I'd just thrown up. What did he say? He said, that's good. Now you're ready for the third guy. He's here. Damn.
No. She wasn't ready.
She wasn't ready.
She wasn't ready.
How did you feel? I was just disgusted. I was just repulsed. I was just too mad at myself. Jane said I was mad that I let myself get into this. Comey asked, this would be a good time for a break. Judge says, I agree. They go on break. During the break, Combs is having these animated conversations with Ignipolo, Shapiro, and Steele, talking with his hands. All right, now they're back from break, and they bring Jane back in. All rise. Comey said, did Sean ever run out of DRUGS during a hotel night? Yes. What happened? He would call one of his assistants or butlers to bring more DRUGS, sometimes his security. What assistants? Brendan, Frank, John, and I'm sure you all remember Brandon Paul, because in March 2024, Paul was arrested at a Miami airport while trying to board a private jet with Combs, and authorities claimed that he had cocaine and marijuana laced candy.
This is what that Jonathan Dot Audie was saying.
Mule, based on accusations in related lawsuits. However, it was confirmed by his attorney on December 17, 2024, that Mr. Paul's case was formally dismissed in its entirety. Brandon accepted the prosecutor's offer to permit his entry into the diversion program, which after completion, the case against him will be dismissed in its entirety. Prosecution says, let me show you a photo of Brandon. This is not shown on the gallery screen. She says, that's him. He would bring pill bottles. Then there would be cocaine, weed. Who from the security did he call for DRUGS? Fahim. Sean called him Fa. Who else brought DRUGS? Guido. He brought mostly ecstasy, Molly, and Xanax, and cocaine. Did you take Xanax? Yes, after I put Sean to sleep. Did you ever carry DRUGS for Sean? Yes, from LA to Miami. KK told me I'll have security come out and give you the package. I asked, is it safe and okay? What did KK tell you? She said, it's fine. I do it all the time. I'm going to ask again, where the hell is KK? Jane continues that she flew with DRUGS to Miami and later took ecstasy with Combs that she said came from the package she traveled with. A couple of weeks later, Jane said Combs asked her to take another package to Miami, and Coram told her that security would come outside of Combs' home to give her the package. According to Jane, Christina told her to put it in her checked luggage. Jane said she would put the package in her luggage and flew to Miami. She then said she gave the DRUGS, which she said was ecstasy, to Combs, and they took the DRUGS together. Prosecution continues. Where did you give Sean the package? In the bathroom of 2 Star. He opened it, and then I saw the colorful pill. I assumed, I don't want you to assume, did you take the pills? Yes, for a hotel night. It was ecstasy. Before May and October 2021, who reached out to the entertainers? Sean. Then who? Me. Why did you start choosing? I didn't want it to be a stranger. I assessed the dynamic of our relationship. We were watching PORN, and I saw a performer and said, that one. Why did you want to choose? I couldn't get away from this. Who did you choose? Sly Williams. I called him Chef. He had a passion for cooking. What were you and Sean
Williams?
Having SEX on
Williams. Williams. What I tell y'all about the name Williams? What I tell y'all about the name Williams? What's that missing guy name that was doing that porn stuff? He was a dancer, singer. That's missing. That went missing. I showed y'all the video where he was crying about wanting to change and he was sorry and he had slept with so many different people. Y'all remember? Z-Leg or whatever. Zeleg Williams. Okay. Y'all gonna stop playing with me in a minute.
Called him Chef. He had a passion for cooking. What were you and Sean doing? Yes, for a hotel night. It was ecstasy. Before May and October 2021, who reached out to the entertainers? Sean. Then who? Me. Why did you start choosing? I didn't want it to be a stranger. I assessed the dynamic of our relationship. We were watching PORN, and I saw a performer and said, that one. Why did you want to choose? I couldn't get away from this. Who did you choose? Sly Williams. I called him Chef. He had a passion for cooking. What were you and Sean doing? Having SEX on ecstasy. We started talking about Sly's size. Sean was acting all flirtatious about it. I sent Sly a message over Instagram. Did he respond? Yes, I told him I was a fan of his work. Maybe we should meet up one day. We did a FaceTime. Sean was there. What happened? It got hot and steamy. I asked him to show himself.
Upgrade to Google Fiber and pay one simple bill every month.
What about extra fees, like installation?
Taken care of.
He showed himself in his Johnson. Yes, and I was casting from my phone.
She was casting from her phone. Hold on. Let me look at something right quick. Hey, y'all, do y'all remember I showed y'all this guy?
These events allegedly took place across the country.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. He did Broadway. He was in yeah. Former Hamilton Broadway dancer zealot missing. And he did that cry out, started talking about God. He was crying. What is this? Cute guy, but he did porn. He did back alley. I don't know what is it called when they go off into all of that behind the scenes, picking up people and doing all that freaky shit. He did that. That's him. He missing. Anyway, let me get back. Let me get back. Boy, you are something. You are something else. I just want you to know. You are something else. They gonna wear your ass out when you get
to Sean's television. How did you get Sly from Atlanta to LA? I told Sean I would arrange his flight. I booked it online on Expedia. Sean paid me back. Jane also testified that Diddy's travel agent Jess once booked the flight for Sly. Why did Jess book the flight? I was too high to type. He'd be the entertainer for the night. What happened? He was cute and sweet. He was nervous too. It was my first time. First time what? Contacting an adult film star. I had told him it was me and my partner. He said fine. What hotel? L'Hermitage, I believe. It was the routine. The oils would come out. I'd be in uniform. I'd dance. Then S3X. What would Sean be doing? Pleasuring himself. Then who invited him the next time? I did. I would suggest Sly. He was familiar to me. Where else did you meet Sly? The Trump Hotel. The Trump Hotel in New York? Yes, I would book his flight from Atlanta. And you paid him afterwards? Yes, $2,000 to $4,000. Where from? Objection. Where did the cash to pay Sly come from?
Max.
Sean, from the drawer. Sometimes he used Cash App. Other messages
Thank
from
you
March
for the brushes.
2022, Sly sent Jane an explicit image and said he missed her. Jane wrote, looking good, and 2 smiley faces, according to the messages that she read in court. She testified her response was more bland because she wasn't with Combs. When I'm in my sober mind receiving messages, it's kind of not something that I'd like to see. Was there a second adult entertainer you'd reach out to? Yes, Anton.
I can't type because I'm holding it.
Stage name. I don't
My
know his
phone,
real
I'm
name.
out of juice.
We were watching Anton's films and I was really into him. I messaged him on Instagram. He was in LA. I invited him over. How did Anton
I need
respond?
5 more likes.
Positively,
I'm finna shut
we
it
were
down.
in my first residence. What happened? The same. Sean watched. He was happy. Did you see Anton again?
Oh, he's a
yes,
nasty
sometimes
freak.
at hotels in LA, sometimes in my apartment. Did you FaceTime with Anton and Sly? Yes, when Sean and I were alone having sexy time. Why would Sean call them? He wanted something live. I was doing like sexting FaceTimes and screen sharing to Sean's TV. I told Sly and Anton I was alone so they would feel comfortable. Did you ask Sly and Anton to send you pictures of their Johnson? Yes, Sean wanted them. He would say, get it. Did Anton or Sly ever send you photos of their Johnson when you were not with Sean? Yes, I was polite and flirtatious, but not as flirtatious as I was when I was with Sean. Did you ever see Anton or Sly in person without Sean? No. Are these your texts with Sly? Let me show you. The texts are not shown on the gallery. I was asking for explicit photos and videos from him. That's what my partner wanted. What did Sly say? He said, I'm down. And who are the other entertainers? Paul and Don, Sean coordinated others. Between May 2021 and October 2023, how often were the hotel nights? Every week? Every other week? After February 2024, where did this happen? 2-star and in LA. In the LA residence you were living in? Yes. Okay, after February 2024. Maybe 5 times. How many different men? I don't know. Let's talk about some. Who's this? Don. Okay, and when was the last time? August 2024 at 2-star. I only saw Don in Miami. Who's this? Paul. When was the last time? End of July 2024. Before that, very often. What did you think Paul did? A personal trainer for Sean in LA, Miami, and Turks. How did Paul get there? He booked his own travel or he'd already be there. Who's this? A man named Leo. I met him through Sean for one of the nights. I met him on my birthday. Last time? 2023. Where did you see Leo? LA. What else did you call him? Italian. Who's this? A guy Sean brought into the night in 2021. What happened? Sean said he had someone coming over. I was repulsed in the Lamatage. He looked sweaty. He didn't look nice. He kind of smelled. What did you do? I tried to make it work. I tried to seduce him with my body. He just kept sweating so much. I looked at my partner. I'm not feeling this. I was in lingerie and heels. What was he wearing? Nothing. Sean said, do you want to taste it? I said, I'm not feeling this. What did Sean do? He laid me down and started having SEX with me. Where was the man? Hovering over me. He was sweating on me.
Oh, wow.
Then what? Sean told me to look at the man's private part. But it wasn't happening. Sean told him, no worries, and the man left. Then what? Sean told me he had someone else coming. Paul. I was blindfolded. Sean wanted me to touch him. I took a liking to Paul. I was more comfortable. I thought he was handsome and nice, and he had a warm energy. Did you want to have SEX with him?
Wow.
No, but if I had SEX with someone, I guess it was not so bad with Paul. What's this? A photo of a man named Michael. I saw him twice in 2022 or 2023 in the Addition, Los Angeles. Sean said something new was coming. Then, like, just a bit later, Sean was having small talk with this guy on the balcony. He invited me out. I thought Michael was attractive. He was from a website. Who's this? I don't know his name. I met him on my birthday in 2023. One of these nights. What happened? Sean told me to come to Miami. We would be alone. He was so sweet. We were eating sushi at Nobu in the hotel. Sean said, we have entertainment. I gulped and said, an entertainer? What did he say? It's your birthday. I just accepted it. Why? I don't know. Upstairs, this man comes in. It was the routine. I'm like a robot. I'm getting the guy comfortable. She starts to cry. Do you need a break, Jane? You said you were robotic. What did you mean? I have done so many of these, I can just tune out. My partner likes to see it. I just turn on this person. What do you mean you turn into another person? A person that can just do this? What happened? I was much quicker with this person. He felt more like a stranger to me than anyone. I don't want to do this on my birthday. I asked Sean for a rubber. Where was he? He was behind the man.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
He gave me dirty looks like
he was behind the man doing the butt.
I could just hear that. What else did you hear him say? Objection. Overruled. I didn't want to sour the mood. Why didn't you want to sour the mood? She starts to cry. I just didn't want my partner unhappy with me. Do you need a break, Jane? No, I'm okay.
Is the craziest
what happened next? If you're ready to tell us. Sean gave him a rubber, but then walked away. He was so disappointed. The guy finished. I can't remember where. What next? The man left. We switched rooms to a bigger suite. What then? Sean was more loving. He was celebratory. He had cake there and balloons. Then Sly comes. Any talk? No, it was just hours and hours of pleasing this guy, doing so much, just doing all of it. Foreplay, things I know my partner wants to see, going back and forth. It was morning. Then what did Sean say? That Don was coming. What did you say? Nothing? That it was fine. Why? Because I love my partner. What did you do with Don?
That is not
STX?
love.
Let's break for lunch. Jane leaves.
That is not love.
Says, could we have a quick sidebar with the government about something I'd like the court's advice on? Yes, the sidebar ends and they go to break. Okay, so now they're back from lunch break. Prosecutor Comey says this afternoon we'll be showing some explicit exhibits in binders, so not on counsel's screen, but counsel can come up and see them. Judge says, okay, bring in the witness and the jury. All rise. Prosecutor Comey says, have you seen this man? Sean brought him to our hotel room in LA. I was in a robe and lingerie, the whole wardrobe I usually had. What happened in this living room of the suite? I knew this was something I could not fake. What do you mean? I was repulsed by him. I tried for 30 minutes. Then I told Sean, can I talk to you in the bedroom? There, I told him I can't. I tried again, but I just can't. No. I told Sean, I'm so sorry. How did Sean respond? Agitated. Then another man came. Did Sean talk to you first? No. Who's this? A man I met in New York. I told him I didn't want to go to New York if it was to set me up with a man. He said no, one-on-one. So I went. Did you get Wi-Fi on the plane? Yes. Sean sent me a text. Do you want entertainment for the night? How did you feel? Disappointed. My thoughts of seeing my lover was shot down. Where did you go to in New York? The Trump Hotel. I saw his assistant setting up the room with red lights for a hotel night. I took this photograph. The photograph is shown but not to the gallery screen. What happened next? I told Sean I don't want to do this. He was just like super defensive. On the way back to the room, Sean gave me a pill. What was it? Ecstasy. I took it. The man was in the room. He had small talk. I let the man touch my leg a little bit. I took Sean to the bedroom and told him, I can't do this. How did Sean react? Agitated. According to Jane, this wasn't like a typical thing for us to have like a hiccup in the routine of the night. I called another performer. Why? That's a hard question. At that point in the relationship, I knew that's what my partner would want. Was Sean paying your rent? Yes. Did he mention it? Objection. Judge says, time frame. Was this after Sean started paying your rent? Yes. I called Sly. He was excited. He flew to New York that night from Atlanta. What happened? It was nice. We had S3X in front of Sean at the Trump Hotel. Me and Sean had to go our separate ways, but I didn't want Sly to feel we were just leaving him. So cash was brought to the front desk for him by an assistant. Which one? Joey. And this man, I had S3X with him in front of Sean. And another, a Spanish buff man, but he was a bit odd. I felt he was pulling out this scent to smell during S3X. I don't know. In front of Sean? Yes. Another, a man looked like European at the L'Hermitage. We had S3X twice. Which entertainers did you see most often? Paul, Sly. Which ones did you reach out to? Them, Anton, Don. Did you ever arrange hotel nights as a surprise for Sean? Jane admits that she did. She says those instances were probably for special occasions such as Valentine's Day or Combs' return from a long trip. Jane said that she would hear the gray lines in between his words that implied that he wanted sexual performances to happen. Combs would say things like, I can't wait to see what you have in store for me. I just knew what the task was being asked of me. When asked why she set up hotel nights for Combs even though she didn't want to, Jane said, I loved him very deeply. You saw cash during these hotel nights. Where? In the drawer or the nightstand. When Sean ran out of cash, what did he do? He made a phone call to his security or assistants, KK. Cash would appear. How much? A good amount. To whom did Sean hand cash?
Cash would appear.
Paul, Don. He'd pay at the end. What would Sean say before he brought out his iPhone to record? Nothing. Or it's just for me. Did Sean sometimes act different? Sometimes happy, sometimes not. What directions would Sean give? To put baby oil on the man, to touch myself. When you knew the camera was on you, how did you react? It was just part of it. Did Sean ever record you while not on DRUGS? No. Did you act like you enjoyed it? Yes. Why? I wanted to put on a good show. What fantasy talk did you engage in? So much. Role play, a fantasy. I'm sorry, there are just so many memories. He would create characters. I'm going to show you some exhibits not on the council screens. Who is this? Me and Don. The next one is me and Sly. And this is me and Paul. Then me and Leo, Anton and myself. Was Sean present for all of these? Yes. I wore the stripper shoes the whole time. What would happen with the baby oil? It would drip down in the shoes. I would try to keep my balance. Did Sean ask you to get your NIPPLES pierced? Yes. He said it would turn him on. Who set up your piercing appointment? KK. Then they got on my lingerie and my NIPPLES got infected. I took them off. What did Sean say? He said, where are my piercings? This is the last time I see you without them. Did your back hurt? Yes, from bending over so much. What else got sore? Mama JJ, did you tell Sean? No. Why not? I just didn't want to indicate any negativity. Why did you keep going? I'm not sure. Jane states that she developed UTI or yeast infections after nearly every freak off. She testified her back and shoulders often hurt afterwards because I would be at the edge of the seat or the edge of the bed in the position that he, Sean Combs, liked. Sometimes Combs would make Jane have SEX with escorts and another freak off before her previous UTI had healed. It felt like burning and constant urination. Her pelvic area also hurt during freak offs, but she didn't feel comfortable complaining because Combs wanted her to stay positive. Jane said he would become upset, defensive, belittling, dismissive on multiple occasions when she suggested pausing the session. The judge says sidebar. They go into the sidebar. Now they're back. Do you have any estimate of how many times you told Sean you didn't want to keep doing the hotel nights? I don't have an estimate. Did you write? Yes, sometimes I had the courage to text it to Sean. What did you see in the text messages? That I have been texting it since 2021. What's this? Text exhibit not shown on the screen. November 2021, I felt jealous. I saw he was doing things with another woman on their IG stories. Why did you feel jealous if you knew he was dating other women? I came to do hotel nights with Don and Sly. I felt mistreated. I was coming there to do a hotel night, and when I'm leaving, he's giving another woman all this quality time that I was begging for. This next text, I wrote, I need a breather and a break from you. This doesn't make me feel good at all. Your true intentions with me are in plain sight. Play this exhibit, a voice note. Combs said, she asked me to work out. This is the time you're gonna curse at me? I don't have a bunch of guy friends. Don't matter if I just effed her. Be sad. Go crazy. I don't deserve being honest with someone. How often did Sean call you crazy? Often. It made me feel confused. What did you say? That she didn't just come to the gym. I don't even care who you were laying up with. I wanted the time with him. I said, you just want the hotel shit. Okay, and what happened here? I had SEX with Leo. I was high. It made my partner happy. I was okay with it. How many phones did Sean use then? 2. Sean started dating another woman. He did a big birthday party for her. How'd you see it? On IG? What did you say? I see what you were doing for her. Why do you play me? You say she's just a business partner? Then you say she's spending money on you? How would you feel if I said a man was spending money on me? You wrote, I feel cheap. Jane testified that she was jealous of the other women and how Combs treated them. Growing emotional, Jane said, I was being treated like I was the one who had to take this on. I had to take all of this on and they didn't. At one point, Jane texts Combs, it's not me you want or miss. Jane testified that in a text she meant, it's not me that you want, it's these hotel nights. Jane said after the text conversation with Combs, he FaceTimed her and calmed her down. It's something Combs would do after having a fight about the hotel night. He would say all the things I wanted to hear. He would say that it's not what I'm thinking. He would just downplay whatever I was freaking out about and said that he loved me and he missed me and he wanted to see me. After the first hotel night in May 2021 with Don, what did you do next? Out on a yacht? And later, we would just sleep after hotel nights. What did you write in this note? I wrote, why am I just your freaky desire? Did you send this to Combs? No, I did not have the courage. In this note, I wrote, you were partying with another girl. You just want me for debauchery. I'm done being used by you. You trashing my house with dirty debauchery. I'm done.
Debauchery.
And what was this? Right after I spent my birthday.
Debauchery.
Embrace the journey, where each moment turns into a cherished.
Having SEX with these men in a hotel room, Sean went on a vacation with another girl he was dating. And how did he respond to your text? He wrote, I didn't tell her about your birthday. What did he write to you next? That it looked like I had a nice birthday dinner with my girlfriends. Who paid for that dinner? Sean. But was he there? No. And here when you said you were tired? After 3 men. And what did he write to you here? He wrote, I'm tired of you throwing SEX in my face. Let's just be friends. What did you think he meant? Anytime I brought up the hotel nights, what did you write? Are you really breaking up with me? She begins to cry. You were the only man in my life. You took someone else to the place I have dreamt about? Where? Turks? What did he write? He wrote, I'm tired of these long texts telling me what I'm doing wrong. I wrote, what am I doing wrong? Okay, now the judge has called for a break. Now, while the jury is out, counsel for Jane Doe says, I want to bring to the court's attention that there are YouTube accounts that are actively trying to find out Jane's identity. Where we find contact information, we reach out. We are recording live streams. Judge says, do you have evidence if these people are in the courtroom or in the overflow room? Her counsel says if we find that out, we would ask them to be banned from the courtroom or the overflow room. The judge says make an ex-parte filing. I'll ask the marshals to investigate. Jane's counsel says if someone publishes her license, it would violate your order. Judge says send me what you can. I'll consider it even over the break. Okay, Ms. Comey says pull up the exhibit. What is this? A note on my notes. Were you writing what you were feeling at the time? Yes, I wrote, you lied straight to my face. You used me for a hotel night before your trip. When you took a break from Sean, where did you travel? France. Sean started texting me again and again. Paris, Paris, Paris. How did it make you feel? That he cared, but I knew I had to stay strong. I went away for 5 days. He was adamant that we see each other. I missed him too. Why? Because I love him. Soon we were planning to go to Turks. I'd go to Miami first. What did Sean write to you? He said a night of debauchery, then to the beach. I said, no, we have to reconnect. He said, cool. Did that turn out to be true? No. What did you do in Miami? We bickered about Paris. He said his girl just can't up and leave like that. And in this photo, our dinner. Then what? He took a pill and we went to a hotel. We were watching PORN and Sean said, do you want Don? What did you say? Yes. Why? I was just used to it. Then we went to Turks. Okay, and in Turks, Paul came in. What happened? I'm back in the outfit. I'm going to try to do this another round. It was really painful. I couldn't have SEX. Why not? I was extremely sore at this point. Sean tried to lube me up. He said, you can't take any more DICK. I threw the bracelet and said, you only brought me here to SUCKDICK for you. I was talking, then sat on the steps of a villa. Did Sean talk? Yes, he said, how can you make me look like that in front of Paul? Sean told me to apologize to Paul. I messaged him and said I was sorry for how I acted, that I was really glad he'd come out to see me. Who told you to do that? Sean, what did you write to Sly? If he could come to Turks, I told him that he'd need a passport and vaccination. What did Sly respond? I'm willing, but I don't have a vaccination card. Why did you do this? To make it up to Sean. Why did you write this way to Sly and Paul? I wanted them to feel good, like they were not being used. Why? I just do. What was the love contract in March 2023? Ooh. He asked, how much did I want per month? I said 15, he said 10. He started paying your rent? Yes. Who is paying your rent now? Sean. What the?
Get somebody else to do it.
What else did Sean pay for? My teeth. What do you mean? Sean didn't like my teeth. I got new veneers. He also paid to furnish my house. My allowance just didn't do it. I used 3 credit cards. I had promised him an all contract in March 2023. He asked, how much did I want per month? I said 15. He said 10. He started paying your rent? Yes. Who is paying your rent now? Sean. What the?
Get somebody else to do it.
What else did Sean pay for? My teeth. What do you mean? Sean didn't like my teeth. I got new veneers. He also paid to purchase my house. My allowance just didn't do it. I used 3 credit cards. I had promised him an all-star party. What's that? I'd bring the top 3 guys all in the same night. Why? I was with my lover and he liked that. I told him I have to be awake at 8 a.m. on Sunday. I said that the last time I got sick. Okay, in this first text, he felt hesitation for me about the all-star party. He asked, did your vajayjay hurt? You're not being straight with me. Comey said the 2D a minute later. He quoted my text asking for help with more furniture for the house. Here, Sean writes, Rico is ready. Who's Rico? Maybe the man named Michael. Or wait, maybe it was a role play and Sean was Rico. You don't know? I don't. Why did you show Sean a photo of pink toilet paper? To show that my period was about to come down, that I needed the night off. Let's postpone. What did he write back? You're getting your hair done for nothing. I'm done. And what did you mean movie night was not on my mind? What was that? We would not have an entertainer. We just watch our own movies of the hotel nights. We called it movie night. What did you write? Why do you talk about the father of my child? All because you don't get your way one night and bust an NUT. What does he say back in this voice memo? His voice plays, "I don't have time, baby girl." Combs' voice continues, "You need to get on your job." How did you interpret that? Making sure he's happy, including these nights? How did you respond? That he always brought up paying for the house. It felt like, I don't know, this guilt trip. Comey says, "I think this is a good time to break for the day and week." Judge says, "Jurors, thanks for staying late. Avoid any coverage about the case. All rise." The jury leaves. Y'all, that was a lot.
Ooh, that was a lot. Okay, y'all, so listen. I'm going to pick up tomorrow. Heavy Bear. Ooh, that's a lot, y'all. Baby, when I tell you my arm is hurting and I don't think I can stomach no more. Y'all, I can't. Y'all in here too like it ain't nothing. I'm going to tell you now, if I continue, I am not holding it. I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to let y'all fall off. I'm going to pick up here. Oh, my God. Y'all up in here.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing today? Well, baby, if you were Charles, you were saying dandelion. Where you at? I should have never let y'all see me do my
Kelly, how is this case about just the pros?
Anyway, y'all,
what about the parties? I mean, I don't know if that's coming up later. They still got what?
We are going to get into
3 more weeks.
Her testimony. We are going to get into Jane Doe's testimony.
And we don't hold on. Let me say this. And they still say that this is just this case. They still have other charges in other states that's coming up for Diddy. This is just the beginning, Kelly. They got a couple of more in different states.
Baby, we are not for doxing anyone on this channel. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I will turn the chat off. Victor came in during Jane Doe's testimony. Rico, even when he said that they were literally using her as a mule, what? First of all, I do want to say this. Jane had something very, very good to say. Also,
she did. Yeah, somebody asked me, was she a good? Yeah, she brought out some stuff.
So I can upgrade your mod.
Pandora's box.
Found out how to do it.
Yeah, she brought in the trafficking for real, and the racketeering, and the triple X across state lines.
Say this right.
Yeah, let me get some juice, y'all. I'm out of juice. Oh my God.
Listen. Oh, thank you. Who said they've been promoting me? Michelle Fleur. You said yes.
This is a lot.
And Nancy, great.
What she got from
this chat to 1 second. 1 second. Hold on.
Child, we know who she is.
Closely to everything that Jane Doe was saying. I'm saying this once and I'm saying this twice, and this is the last time I say this on chat. We are not talking about Jane Doe. We're not talking about her name, who she is, or whatever. I don't even want any side talk about that in the chat. I'm going to tell my moderator.
I do see why Jane is going to be.
That even mentions that.
I was trying to be.
Because there was so much tea spilled. You know what the interesting thing about this is?
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
It was a lot.
Victim, okay? Jeannie, right? She literally only just started getting her rent paid from Diddy in 2023. Prior to that, she did not get her rent paid at all. So they can't even say that she was doing it to be money grubbing. She literally was doing all this stuff off of the strength that she loved this man. I know.
I don't understand why they love him. And
so let's get into this, shall we? All right. Now, where does it start? Again, Diddy might be looking at another lawsuit. Again, Jane Doe does not have a civil lawsuit. But why was Douglas Wiggler coming in just so quiet, watching the proceedings? He said, "Okay, right? Hold on, let me make this."
So is her attorney Cassie's attorney?
Okay. Anyway, Douglas Wigner came into the courtroom. I said, is he trying to represent victim number 2? Is he like, Jeannie, come over here, I can take you? Is he sitting there saying, ooh, this is a travesty? Diddy might, listen, that house on Star Island, those kids actually might lose it, and they might actually be living at the Greyhound station, because I know one thing, when I see Douglas, and again, he's not representing Jane Doe, but when I see Douglas Wigner around, baby,
I thought Elizabeth said that that was her attorney.
About Cassie, but he didn't address the court. He literally was just observing and watching everything and listening to victim 2's testimony. All right, and listening to victim 2's testimony. I said, okay, let's get into this. All right. Anyway,
I'm trying to hold it up, y'all.
Trying to get text messages thrown out, and also here's the thing. So Jeannie, that's victim 2, she literally was, yes, that's my name for her. Jeannie, victim 2, and no, she is not a public-facing person. Nobody has ever seen her, okay?
That's not true. You must not have seen her.
She had notes. So while all this was going on, she would make notes about how she felt and how Sean made her feel, right? And she still has those notes. So what is it?
Yeah. I'm a do this tomorrow. I can't.
Because they're like, it's hearsay, it's upon hearsay. And you know, Mark Agnifilo had the nerve to stand up and been like this. Hold on. You're up there and say, the prosecution is trying to use these notes to prove sex trafficking by fraud. The prosecution looked like they were like, is he okay? Are you okay? Judge Aaron was like, by fraud. Yes, Your Honor, by fraud. If you guys don't know, fraud is one of the ways you can prove sex trafficking. It's by force, fraud, or coercion. You're trying to say it's illegal for them to prove that you use fraud, which is a way that you can use to prove sex trafficking. What was the fraud? Now here's the thing.
Misleading, lying, being deceptive.
Oh God, here's the thing. Between people that are okay with I ran in here. I had a special meeting today, but I ran in here straight from the court. Oh yeah, also just to let you guys know, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday of all next week, the judges said that the court is staying later. He was giving us a favor and letting us leave at 3 o'clock every single day, right? He was doing a favor and letting us believe hold on. He was doing us a favor and letting us leave at 3 o'clock. But now, because Jane has a limit to what she can, hold on, you guys. I'm going to go subscribers only just for a minute, and then you guys can all chat. Just give me a second, right? But anyway, they were saying that, by fraud. Sorry about that, right? So anyway, they were saying that, oh my God, that's not true. That's not true. You did this by fraud. You did this by fraud. Hello? Are you okay? Do you not know? Do you not know that at the end of the day, that's one of the ways you prove sex trafficking? What are you guys on? What have you guys proven? Can you stop it? Sorry. Sorry, guys. In any case, they have not proven the fraud. That's what the Mark Agnifilo was trying to say. But at the end of the day, the issue actually was that Mark Agnifilo thinks it's unfair that they are trying to prove sex trafficking through fraud, even though that is a type of sex trafficking. And he thinks they should only prove it through force or coercion. I am tired of Mark Agnifilo. I am tired of him. We know. Now, here's the thing. Between regular abusive and not so regular abusive, okay? Everybody seems to actually think that Diddy promising Jeannie that she would do this for her, do that for her, do this, do that. They somehow think that that's just him being a player. No, that is fraud. And to me, it's like, you promised me that if I did this freak off, I could do this. You promised me if I did this freak off, you would do this. Now, you want some real tea? Oh, also, let's get into the Young Miami tea. Hold on, y'all. Because that was actually shocking, okay? Jeannie was super, super, super upset about that. Hold on. Let me get to my notes. Hold on. She said that she realized that he was just using her. So first of all, she said that she remembers that there were 3 unnamed SMEX workers that she remembers, but she couldn't name them. Jeannie said the victim said one was an African-American man who was an actor or singer. They met at a hotel in LA. It was either the London or the Le Hermitage. They had SMEX in front of Diddy twice. Now, here's the way the prosecution broke this off, because part of SMEX trafficking and even RICO is you must show a pattern. Every time they had them testify something, and they said, and what did you do? We had SMEX. And who did you have SMEX in front of? Sean. And how many times? And they would say it. They kept repeating it over and over and over. She said there was a Spanish-looking buff man. Where did you meet? At a hotel. Where? In Los Angeles. What year? 2022. Right? They said he was very odd because he kept needing to smell stuff during the SMEX. However, they kept saying, and what did you do? I had SMEX. And who did you have SMEX with? In front of Sean. And how many times? Twice. Then she said they met with a European escort at the La Hermitage, at that hotel. Would y'all stay there? You better bring a blue light if you do. They said, and where did you meet? In LA. At the and where did you meet? At La Hermitage. And what did you do? I had SMEX. And what? In front of Sean, right? Okay. Now, she said that she never met these people, she never spoke to them, or she never wanted to sleep with them. But it was all Sean. He's the one that did that, all right? She said the escort she loved the most was Paul and Cabral. Paul and Cabral, right? Cabral, whatever. She said that she would reach out to schedule occasionally, but she did that at Diddy's directive. She said one time she arranged a freak-off. Hold on. She arranged a freak-off as a surprise for Sean, okay? Jenny said that she only did that 2 lines, right? Because she did it 2 times because she was reading in between the lines, right? She said it was a coordinated night. She said he didn't have to specifically tell me. He would just say, I can't wait to see what you have for me. She said she loved him deeply. And she told him, but I only want to sleep with you. She said she saw a lot of cash in hotels, in draws. Jeannie saw it all. There was money in nightstands. She said one time Diddy ran out of money a few times, and he made phone calls, and assistants came and bought the money. Who was it? KK and security. The security's name is J9. You want the RICO? There it is. KK and J9, aiding and abetting. What is the predicate act? Again, in RICO, you need at least two predicate acts, right? SMEX trafficking is one. So if you are aiding and abetting, right, somebody conceal, cover up, or even engage in SMEX trafficking. Now, when it gets into what SMEX trafficking is, a lot of people think it's taken. It's not. It's a person engaging in a commercial sexual act. You don't have to be the prostitute. You can be the one being forced to sleep with the prostitute. And you're doing it in exchange for something of value. It can be feelings. It can be money. It can be whatever. And the person that is commissioning all this must gain something of value. What did he gain of value? Diddling himself in the corner while he's dressed as a Muslim woman from the neck up. Who's the person that had to engage in the commercial SMEX act? Cassie, right? And Victor, okay? Also, who is the commercial sex worker that was there? All these people. Again, just because you're not the worker doesn't mean that you were a commercial SMEX. You were not a commercial SMEX act, all right? Also, right? We also get into, what else is there, right?
Y'all still here?
So they would give cash. it would be Jeannie, it would be Sean, it would be the assistant. She would see him hand the money.
Okay.
Dawn and listen, she saw him hand money to Dawn and Paul. Again, Paul, a lot of people don't get this. This is the actual RICO charges. This is the RICO. This is the smacks. By seeing him hand Diddy the money, or Diddy giving victim the money to him, what does that prove? That proves that Diddy was the one orchestrating this. This also proves that it was 100% a commercial SMEX worker, because you paid them for their services, okay? Again, she outlined that. Now get this, right? She said
she brought a lot of good stuff.
Right? She said that Jeannie talked about that Diddy always filmed it, right? And she said he filmed it almost every time. And she said every time they did it, they used Sean's iPhone, right? And she said that she was told that it was just for me or just for us, okay? She said sometimes Sean behaved differently. Sometimes he was happy and satisfied, and sometimes he was unhappy and upset. Now, here's the thing. I was waiting for them to get to the violence, but I think tomorrow, Monday is going to be the day everything goes off the rails, because I feel like they're building up. But even if they don't,
they always do, though.
Sexy. I know people are like, oh, who cares? This is a regular toxic relationship. No, it isn't, right? Jeannie said she took instructions on how to use baby oil, how to blank herself, how to extend everything. She said that Diddy, she had a lot of neck and back and body pain because Diddy would make her hold the same pose for hours. He would literally make them hold the same sexual pose for hours. Then he would also be in her ear while she was doing this, talking about, you want to taste this? You want to stroke this? You want to kiss this?
Oh,
you
wow.
Touch this? And get out of my face, right?
He about just as nasty as the fat, funky,
she was
sweaty,
sober in those recordings. She said Jenny said she acted like she enjoyed it, right? Because she knew she wanted to put on a good show. For hours, he would make them have foreplay. And there was lots and lots of smecks. There was lots of fantasy talk, role play. Sean really liked that. Sometimes sometimes she would even be on camera laughing and joking. Why? Because she was actually, she said the whole time she was actually high.
Yeah, I gotta go to sleep. My arm is hurting. I see y'all
deeply.
Is it after midnight? What time is it?
Where are we?
I see y'all tomorrow.
Listen to this, right? Wow. And here's the whole thing with, I know y'all saying get some rest. Y'all, I know, but I will get some rest after this, right? She said, get this. She also said during these acts, she had to be in high heels the entire
I gotta go.